This is Headline USA Editor-in-Chief Ken Silva, and I'd like to share with you one of the most important interviews of my career. A 3+ hour conversation with none other than Andreas Strassmeir, a German national who's been suspected for decades of being involved in the April 19th, 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. The few people who followed my work for years know that I interviewed Strassmeir in May 2023 after Showtime produced a television series that depicted Strassmeir as a co-conspirator of OKC bomber Timothy McVeigh. At the time, Strassmeir's former attorney, Kirk Lyons, graciously set me up with an interview with Strassmeir to respond to how the show portrayed him. That interview turned into a 3+ hour talk that touched on many of the aspects of his life and the allegations surrounding him, some of which he'd yet to publicly address, from his relationship with an ATF informant who implicated him in the bombing, to his friendship with an ex-CIA pilot who helped him leave the country, to his theory about what really happened on April 19, 1995. Strassmeir reveals a lot of information that the public did not know until this interview. I said nearly 2 years ago that I had eventually released the full interview, and with the 30th anniversary of the OKC bombing coming up in mere days, I figured there would never be a better time than now. It's my hope that researchers will use this interview to draw more connections and learn more about what really led to the deadliest domestic terrorist attack in American history, one that killed at least 168 people, including 19 children. Note for listeners, this interview was edited around the 5-minute mark just to remove some personal information that I disclosed about myself. Other than that, the rest of our conversation is untouched. Hope you enjoy.
Hello?
Hey, Mr. Strassmeir, can you hear me now?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
You can call me Andy to be easy, to make it easy.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for taking your time to talk to me. So you had the chance to watch the clips that I sent you last night?
Yes, there were 3 clips, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, okay, yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was your reaction?
Well, I think I heard that about the first scene, that McVeigh was supposedly in Elohim City talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2, they were new to me. Well, of course, it's all a pile of nonsense. If you want me to, I can go into details.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so first thing seen, McVeigh never has been in Elohim City, and I never talked to him. Except for the 10-minute talk at the Tulsa gun show 2 years prior to the bombing, where I ran into him. He had a stall over there, and I tried to sell some stuff. You're probably familiar with that story.
Yeah, I did. I actually listened to your recent interview with John Ronson for his podcast about Carol Howell. I don't suppose you got a chance to listen to that yet either.
Nah, he was supposed to send me a copy. I'm still waiting, so I've given up on the idea, so yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess to push back a little, are you aware that Danny Coulson has said on the record that Timothy McVeigh did visit Elohim City?
Well, who is Danny Coulson?
He was the head of the FBI's hostage rescue team. I think he was like number 5 in the chain of command. He was the head of the investigation on April 19th.
When did you say this?
He said this in a 2021 in an interview with TRT. It's like a podcast where former FBI guys bullshit about their careers, I guess. But let me play you the clip real quick.
Okay.
If you can hear.
You know or not, but Tim McVeigh went to Robert Millar's compound before he blew up the burn building. That's something we can talk about later. You know or not, but Tim...
So, I don't know if you're able to hear that at all.
Nah, audio was pretty bad, but okay. Now he's claiming that. I mean, no, that's complete nonsense. I mean, I don't know where he's getting this from or why he's saying this, but that's simply not true. I mean.
Okay. Well, FBI guys tend to lie, so I guess it's a he said, she said.
Is he quote? I mean, where did he source this information? Did he say where he got it from?
Well, I would assume he'd have firsthand knowledge. I mean, Danny Coulson, his specialty was investigating right-wing groups. I think he investigated the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord in the 80s. He was involved in Ruby Ridge, Waco, and I think he...
Yeah, well, I mean, if you say, well, see, I didn't hear the audio. If he says where Timothy McVeigh was there, well, where did he get his information from? I mean, he wasn't present when McVeigh visited, was he? I mean...
no, I guess, well, he presumably had informants in Elohim City. I mean, we do know there were informants there.
I'm the picture. Probably Carol Hauer, so...
I don't know.
I mean,
you don't...
See, that's just, I mean, to be honest, you can access my FBI file, actually. It's on the Freedom of Information. You still there?
Yes.
Yeah, under the Freedom of Information Act, you can still get my FBI file, if you want to.
Okay.
And a journalist I knew once did this and told me what's in it. Well, there's nothing in my file about this, so... that McVeigh visited Elohim City.
Okay.
So I wonder why, so... Yeah, but I mean, that's it, so he is making those claims.
Well,
can you pass this information on to Kirk Lyons with this FBI guy?
Yeah, I'll certainly do that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing stinks, I mean, let me throw this in. I think the BATF had prior knowledge of the bombing and somehow were involved. That would answer the question, who is John Doe number 2? And the FBI probably wasn't involved in the plot, but definitely in the cover-up.
Okay. Actually,
you see, I mean, the only way to get away with a thing like this, no terrorist or any group would get away with it except the government is protecting them. So my question is, why is there no John Doe number 2? Every eyewitness who put McVeigh on the scene has seen two men. One white guy matching McVeigh and a Hispanic guy. So who is the Hispanic guy?
Yeah, and maybe you could talk a little bit more about that. What exactly do you think happened? I know you confirmed you do believe John Doe 2 exists. So do you have a theory of who exactly this person might be? I'm sure you've thought about it for decades.
Yeah. The thing is, of course I can't be sure that it's John Doe number 2. But I mean, I've seen that, I was there when it happened, I saw, pretty followed it all up, and there were pictures of two guys. There were two guys wanted. One the Hispanic guy and one the white guy from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And why would the eyewitnesses see two guys when there was only one? So I'm not 100% sure that he exists, but I have no reason to doubt it because the other image did match McVeigh. So, and I think if I would be investigating this thing, I would look at McVeigh's military buddies. Because the two other guys got locked up, Nichols and Forty, and McVeigh, they were buddies in their old army buddies. So John Doe number 2 probably would be some of his old mates from the military.
There's a lot of people...
And there's a room, which I don't know is true. Another British journalist told me that. Apparently in the base where McVeigh used to be, there was a group picture of soldiers with McVeigh. And there was also a Hispanic guy, and they removed the picture. But this is, something I heard from a journalist, so it's not first-hand information.
Ah, okay. I haven't heard of that picture. I'd be interested in...
this might be just nonsense, one of those... it's really difficult with all the bullshit and all the rumors going on to find what's true, you know.
Right.
But this Zondo number 2, might be a BATF informer or might be even a BATF undercover agent. So I don't know how much the BATF was involved, but I talked to a guy, I forgot his name, but Kirk has his name. He is a former BATF guy, and I personally talked to him a few weeks after the thing, actually a few months for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at the scene. He was at the Waco memorial service. When he heard about the bombing, he went to Oklahoma City. And he said those BATF agents were out there in their ninja suits, with their black combat gear, without a speck of dust on the uniforms. So they have been outside the building when the bomb went off, definitely. And that's also what's this woman's name? Her grandchildren died in the bombing. For her name.
Oh, Kathy Wilburn.
Kathy Wilburn's daughter right there asked, well, how comes you weren't in the building? And she said this on camera. I've seen it in the news. She was asked, well, how comes you guys weren't in the building when this thing went off? And that's when they started to move in on the Wilburns, and tried to feed them all kind of information, false information. One is that I was involved, that's what So I think what we're dealing here was that BATF was involved, something went wrong, and now they try to shifting the blame,
And it seemed...
I definitely was part in the cover-up.
And
I mean, here's the thing. If the public ever finds out that there was a government operation gone wrong, the reputation and the confidence is gone, I mean, also we have to pay a lot of money for the victims.
Yeah,
but it would be very damaging for the government.
True.
Now, my theory, what happened is that actually the BATF knew about the bombing. There's also a rumor, I don't know if you heard that apparently the fire department got a bomb warning prior to the bombing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they kind of they denied it. That they never. So first they admitted it, but later they said no, they never got a phone call. So I assume, my most likely scenario, which I think is possible, which matches all the circumstantial evidence, is that McVeigh was supposed to drive the Ryder van under the building in the garage, but it didn't fit.
Mm.
So he parked outside the building, right, on the parking lot. Well, the BATF was waiting inside to arrest him. They were waiting in the garage, but he didn't come to the garage. And I think also McVeigh might have called the fire department so they can evacuate the building. The fire department might have passed that on. The BATF said, yeah, we got it under control, don't worry. Now this is a likely scenario which is possible, would match with all the evidence we have.
So does Carol Howe fit into your theory? Because that seems like she was warning, alleging that people at Elohim City were plotting to blow up federal buildings, and that did happen. So that seems to be pretty prescient.
The interesting thing is, she was debriefed, right, regularly by her handler.
Yeah.
She never mentioned anything until after the bombing. After the bombing, she went to by the way, Andy and I, we were we were looking at casing the building, and he was talking about blowing up buildings. After it happened. So my question is, why did she forget to tell those important things? Like I was, casing a federal building with her. Why didn't she mention anything to her handler when it happened? This is kind of strange,
Well, I thought she had warned the ATF in January,
No.
But they were planning to raid Elohim City to arrest you. Surely you wouldn't dispute that, would you? For overstaying your visa?
Here's the thing: the BATF had they had her over there to spy on me, and she probably was passing on information. And since they paid her and she couldn't deliver, she made stuff up. But the thing with the bombing, as far as I know, she came with us afterwards, which is kind of suspicious, I mean, there should be the file still the BATF has.
Okay,
for the briefing.
I'm looking at my notes and I see her handler, Angela Findley, apparently wrote a memo in November 1994, and I could send you the memo, a warning of bombings after debriefing Carol Howe. I don't know if you're aware of that memo or...
Well, did she say which building?
I don't have that offhand. I don't know. But I mean, it doesn't have to be the Murrah building. If there was some kind of plot, I mean, that seems to be a striking coincidence, even if it's not the Murrah building.
No, it's not. You know, if she's making stuff up, so to give those her handlers something, so she stays employed as a snitch, right? Then she would make stuff up. So what's the most likely thing? Assassinating federal agents, blowing up buildings. I mean, this is all that's all in the book.
Okay.
And she was making stuff up. I know that.
And did you date her, or what was your dealings with Carol?
Yeah, now her job was to date me, become my girlfriend, and spy on me. But I didn't trust her from the beginning, and checked her out and realized that she is, I mean, I was 99% sure that she's an informer when she was there. She was such a dishonest person. I caught her lying all the time. And I said, well, something wrong with that woman. I went to Reverend Millar and I said, we have to get rid of her. You shouldn't allow her to be here. And they had a little meeting, the elders, with Millar and myself, and I said, look, this woman is an informer. And she will be, and she's a liar and an informer, and she will cause damage. So Millar said, well, we're not doing anything illegal here, so what harm is it for her to be here? I said, well, I hope you don't regret your decision, you know? So, yeah, I guess I was right.
Right. And
I explained, look, just by her being here, that would give her credit, whatever she makes up on stories. If she is not allowed to be here, then she cannot make up anything. That's simple. Now, they didn't believe me. Because as now, everybody who comes here is led by Jesus, and, you know, we have to show her love and stuff like this. Those were they were Christian fundamentalists. You know, it's really hard to argue with them.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, the show depicts you shooting at Carol Howe, her finding bomb-making ingredients that you're in your shed. I know you said you didn't live in a shed, but are you going to sue over this? I mean, this seems to be libelous.
Yeah, see, the problem is I have to find a lawyer who's taking it and doing it from here is pretty difficult, right? So, and I personally don't have the financial means, you know. I mean, I'm a freelance book author. I barely survive, right? I don't have the money to sue like a TV company, right? I mean, they're prepared for that. They have the lawyers on standby, right? They're doing. So yeah, I mean, and then I have to see if I have a case. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert on this thing. Because I think they don't mention my name, which I think doesn't make a difference, because everyone knows Andy the German is my person.
Exactly.
You Google that, within 1 minute, you know that's the name they gave me. There was only one German called Andy living at Elohim City, so it's pretty obvious that's supposed to be me. So I don't think that not mentioning my full name is an excuse for them. It could protect them from liability. But the whole thing really smells. First of all, it's very bad. I mean, the first thing with the McVeigh thing is bullshit. Then the thing with her being in my trailer is nonsense. I mean, I lived in a house, it was unlocked, and there was nothing suspicious in there because people were going in and out all the time. That was a policy we had over there. People didn't lock their house, and you could go in there in any house and see if anyone was in there. So it was. I would never ever store anything in there which is suspicious. There was no Nazi literature like in the clip. There was no bomb making equipment. I mean, to be honest, the pretty much on the trial they pretty much showed where the bomb was made, didn't they?
Well, the government told the story.
Arizona somewhere. I mean, there was they knew. I mean, they had a pretty good case against Timothy McVeigh. They knew exactly where he rented the truck, where the bomb was built, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was not Elohim City, that's for sure.
I know a lot of witnesses. So the government has a story about what happened, but I know a lot of witnesses saw a different Ryder truck at Geary Lake on Easter before McVeigh had rented the official Ryder truck, which leads some to suspect that they might have switched out the Ryder trucks to fool the feds. But I guess, that's not really relevant to you. One question I did have. Oh, sorry. Did you want to respond to that?
To what?
Just the multiple Ryder truck theory.
No. See, I mean, the thing is, I didn't follow that in this detail. But I think you probably get the transcript from the trial, and it should be so. They should establish. I think they established the case there exactly timed, and they already debunked the other things that the McVeigh Strassmeir sightings they alleged. They debunked this all on the trial. Mm-hmm. And on the Nichols trial, and Carol Howard wanted to testify, this time for the defense, which is strange since she was working for the government first, and then she switched sides to the defense team, and she wasn't allowed to testify in the McVeigh trial, but in the Nichols trial. And she was given all the garbage and talking about me and stuff, and the prosecutor shredded her up, actually. He totally tore her apart, basically exposing her as an absolute liar.
But I think her handler agent did testify at her trial and confirm a lot of the information that she said she was giving to the feds, like, casing federal buildings with Dennis Mahan and things like that.
Well, I have no idea what she did with Dennis Mahan.
Okay.
But definitely, I think one claim she made is that her and I cased the Murrah building, mm-hmm. which is absolutely untrue. I've never been in Oklahoma City before. I think I went on a gun show after the bombing. I've never been there before. Definitely not with her. So that's absolute nonsense.
Okay.
She made this stuff up. But I think her handler, the BHF found out that she was lying. And they got really upset about her. And that's why they pressed charges against her. Out of revenge, basically. That's what I heard.
Does it make?
She was charged on stuff.
I know you haven't watched the full show, but Carol's kind of depicted as a hero.
I know, and I think the whole thing looks out of Carol Howard's fantasy universe. She always wanted to be a hero. I mean, Carol Howard is an absolute nobody. She can't do anything, but she wanted to be like this Aryan warrior queen or whatever. She could barely walk. She couldn't handle a gun. She was physically unable to do anything, right? And but in her fantasy, she was a hero. And I think somebody must have bought her story and thought, oh, that's cool. We can make a film out of this. I mean, the whole thing where she's a hero. I mean, first of all, she's a Nazi to start with. First time I saw her, she was walking, and Dennis Mahan dragged her along, and there was a chick on crutches with a big swastika tattoo on her arm. And I said, what the heck is this, That's my first impression. Yeah, and she was a wannabe. Carol Howard is a wannabe. And she has never done anything in her life. She's a spoiled rich girl. And whenever she screwed up, Daddy came up, hired a good lawyer, and got her out of the mess. But in her fantasy, she's a hero. And somehow she managed to convince some filmmakers that this is a story. Now, to be honest, you have to be pretty much of an idiot to believe Carol Howard. You talk to her for like 10 minutes and you realize she's full of shit. Right? She's a liar. I mean, it's obvious. Anybody who has common sense and who has a judge of character. If you don't happen to be a religious fundamentalist who believes in Jesus and loving everybody. So,
okay.
Okay.
it kind of sounds like you have a distaste for Nazis, and that's one of the questions I have for you. Like, were you ever a true believer in white supremacy or anything like that, or how did you find yourself consorting?
I'm a very staunch Zionist, to be honest. Pro-Israel, I spend a lot of time in Israel, I have friends over there, and I never subscribe to any, and I'm probably, well, how would I describe in politics? I'm a libertarian socialist, right? And I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of to own firearms and all this stuff. So I was very sympathetic to the Patriot movement back then. And I'm also very critical to the government when the government becomes oppressive. And like with people, like, let's say, even people's extreme views I don't agree with. I don't agree when the government comes after them, locks them up, or shoots them or stuff like this. And that's exactly what happened at Ruby Ridge and Waco. You know? True. I mean, I would say that Branch Davidians were a bunch of religious nutcases in my eyes. But that's no excuse to go and kill them. That's where I'm standing. So, so I stand always with those guys who are the victims of oppressors or overreactive government. I'm also against the murder of American Indians by the federal government, what happened 500 years. It's just a principle,
But I guess, Elohim City had a reputation for being a hive of Nazis. Did you ever discuss philosophy with guys like Dennis Mahan or
Sure.
Michael Brescia or anything? I don't know if you guys had arguments or like what was that like living with Nazis?
I didn't live with Nazis. The people in Elohim City were religious.
Well, you were roommates with Michael Brescia, though, weren't you? You were roommates with Michael Brescia.
Yeah, Michael Brescia. He had right-wing views. Yes. Well, we were kind of friends, and I had friends, I have to admit, who had right-wing views. And, sometimes I discuss things, but sometimes not, you don't want to be too confrontational.
Yeah, fair enough. So I know, like, Kathy Wilburn thinks that Brescia might have been John Doe too.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, this is a story made up by J.D. Cash. Because John Doe number 2 was a dark-looking Hispanic guy. Michael Brescia was a fair-skinned Irish guy with freckles and red hair. Here we go. But J.D. Cash made him, because he had an Italian last name, made him look like a dark-skinned Sicilian. That's what J.D. Cash described Brescia. But he wasn't. I mean, that's nonsense, I mean, it all stinks like somebody is trying to cover something up there, And somebody tried to put people on the wrong track. And they try everything. I mean, I think Dennis Meehan was supposed to be John Doe number 2. Brescia was Actually, Brescia had an alibi. There's even one there. He was at a protest somewhere, and he's even been filmed there at the same time when this happened. So.
But did you think anybody at Elohim City had anything to do with it?
Absolutely not. See, I was the only connection between McVeigh and Elohim City was my person. Because I met McVeigh at the gun show. And we talked for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. I sold him a knife, and I think I bought a pair of gloves and a pair of fatigues of him. That's it. And I gave him a calling card. I said, well, if you happen to be in the area, give us, stop by. Look, he seems to be a nice guy. And to be honest, he didn't strike me as a right-winger at all.
Really?
On the contrary. So you see, we talked about, the number one subject was still during the Waco siege. And we all agreed and said, look, I don't believe what those guys believe in, but what the government doing is a crime. And he said, yeah, that's exactly how he felt, he said. Then he was trying to figure out where I'm standing, and I was wearing like a black motorcycle jacket and camouflage pants and jump boots. And he said, what are you, and then he said, well, I'm glad and he told me, I'm glad you say this because I was worried about you being a Nazi because you kind of dress like a Nazi. I said, no, I'm not a Nazi. So, I mean, that's my personal encounter with Timothy McVeigh. right? So he was kind of worried that I was a Nazi for some reason.
That's
because of the way I was dressed,
That's bizarre.
So, as I said, he did not strike me as a right-wing extremist at all. People can change within 2 years, right? But I'm not convinced that he was a right-wing extremist.
That's interesting. You mentioned,
and he had an affair with. Apparently, he had an affair with Terry Nichols' wife, who is Filipino. So he had a non-white affair with a non-white girlfriend, woman, which is also not typical for right-wingers. I mean, they believe in racial purity.
True, although I guess there's also theories that he killed Terry Nichols' mixed-race baby, too, so I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, right. Sure.
You mentioned that, you have one encounter with McVeigh, and
Right.
I've read a bunch of J.D. Cash's work who quotes witnesses who claim they saw you. What do you make of J.D. Cash? Do you think he was like a government agent spreading disinformation, or what? I mean, his articles are pretty...
But, he was paid. Well, first of all, he was, I think he was a banker, and he had on some paper, he was writing the hunting and fishing section of some paper, and suddenly he became a full-time journalist, and he had his own publication, the McCurtain Gazette. I mean, can you live off that? I mean, who was reading this garbage? I mean, how, once a week he put out a little paper, and he made a living off that? Somebody paid him, definitely. Question is who and why. I think he was part of the cover-up. His job was to spread bullshit and muddy the water. See, the more, and it doesn't matter how ridiculous the stories are you put out. By doing this, you will basically discredit everybody who comes out with a proper alternative theory. You put them all in one pot. They're all conspiracy nutters.
Think he was a useful idiot, or he was doing this stuff intentionally?
No idea.
Okay.
We can't ask him anymore. Well, maybe he was a useful idiot who did it intentionally. I mean, the combination out of both. I think he's a kind of a scumbag, to be honest. And I think he all tried to make a move on Casey Wilburn and Cash and the team of Stephen Jones. They kind of moved in on them, tried to befriend them and stuff like this, and I think they're playing a part. Stephen Jones as well. I think they're all part of a cover-up. And his investigator, Rainier, they're all crooked, to be honest.
Okay.
I know that in his book, Stephen Jones lied about me. I know this from a journalist who investigated that. He's a BBC journalist. I lost his card, unfortunately. His first name was Ivan, but he wasn't Russian. He was Dutch, actually. And he worked for the BBC. And he interviewed me once, and he interviewed people in Ilium City. And he checked up on a few stories that Stephen Jones made in his book, right? And it didn't pan out. I mean, Stephen Jones said he went to England and he talked there with the head of the Jewish community about me. Well, the guy never remembers talking about me, right? Ivan checked up. Also, he said, Stephen Jones said he went with Interpol and discussed me in Europe. Interpol didn't know about me, so, I mean, he's a liar. And, people who lie you can't trust, period.
What do you think about Evans Ambrose Pritchard and what he wrote about you? Was that accurate?
He's an idiot. He's a complete idiot. He didn't know anything. And he was lying as well. I mean, he's quoting me some things I never said. And when Kirk Lyons challenged him and said, well, do we have the records? I said, well, I didn't record the phone call. Okay. He claims he has no record of the phone calls.
Yeah, that's pretty sloppy if that's the case, I could say.
No, but he couldn't. Of course, he couldn't produce it because then, obviously he was lying. He was making stuff up. And he was another idiot who fell for Carol Hauer. I mean, it was a book, The Secret Life of Bill Clinton, and a whole chapter was dedicated to Carol Hauer, and she was some hero for him. I mean, he fell for her. But I said you have to be pretty much of an idiot to fall for her. I say that. Because I didn't. I mean.
Okay. So you guys didn't actually date.
Pardon?
So you guys didn't actually date then? But did you spurn her?
No, she had her job was to become my girlfriend, right? And I rejected her. Now, but she told the BATF that no, we are a couple, because that was her job, right? So she lied to the BATF. While to the skinheads and Nazis and Tulsa, she said, I'm a homosexual who rejected her. So yeah, well, so far for Carol Hauer.
Okay. What about John Matthews? Is that name familiar to you?
John Matthews?
Yeah.
Help me.
He's an FBI informant who went public in 2011. He worked on PatCon, which was investigating the Texas Light Infantry, I believe when you were a member, and he...
No. Well, so was he a member of TLI?
He was an undercover informant who was investigating it. I don't know if he was ever actually a dues-paying member, but he was definitely running with the Patriot movement and the extremists during that time. That's for sure. He told it. Newsweek reported about this about 10 years ago, and he's actually a witness in a court case that's ongoing by Jesse Trenadu. Mm-hmm. And he says, it's in a sworn declaration, that he saw you with McVeigh at a militia training exercise in San Saba, Texas.
Where?
San Saba or Saba.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
No,
I've never been there.
You've never been there? Oh, okay.
I was in. Can you tell me where this is? This location? I mean, I only remember being with the TLI in Austin. So where is this place supposed to be?
I haven't looked at a map to see where it is in relation to Austin. I just know I've never been to Texas myself. I just know it's somewhere. Yeah. I assume.
I mean, if it's a suburb or somewhere, a small town just outside of Austin, then maybe that's what he meant. But what's the place called again? I think I'm going to write this down here somewhere.
San Saba, S-A-B-A.
S-A?
S-A-B-A.
Saba, San Saba?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. TX. I'll look it up, yeah. So.
Okay. But
I can do it while we're talking, actually, here. Let's go and Google here. Yeah, no, Timothy McVeigh, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I was a guest a few times at the TLI when I was staying in Austin, but I've never seen McVeigh over there. So,
okay.
And I don't think he was. This is one of those stories.
But what kind of stuff did you guys do with the Texas Light Infantry?
Just the normal stuff. Basically, plain soldiers,
Okay.
Basically patrolling. I think patrol and then a little bit of shooting and stuff like this. It was more a get together, I would say.
Okay. I guess John Matthews. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I got Saba here. I tried to find out where it exactly is in Saba, Texas. Saba. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's near Austin, really.
Okay. But the name John Matthews that doesn't sound familiar to you at all?
What?
The name John Matthews, that's not familiar to you?
No. Maybe he was hanging out there at, to be honest, I don't know anybody by name in the TLI.
Okay.
So maybe he was in there, masquerading as a member.
You do know Dave Holloway, though, of course.
Yeah, Holloway, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know he claims to be CIA?
No, but he was flying for Air America.
Okay, he
was a pilot and he was flying for Air America in South America a long time before we met.
Air America, okay. I think it's on his LinkedIn, it says Intermountain Aviation, which is a CIA subsidiary, or like a front company.
Yeah, sure. He was a pilot. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but for a CIA company during Iran-Contra, I mean, that's kind of spooky, right?
No. No, why? I mean, we all have our past. He served in the military, and I don't know what else he did there. I mean, he was not a field agent. I said he was working for a front company as a pilot. I mean, I knew that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know if he was involved in Iran-Contra at all?
No, I don't think so.
No, you don't think so. Okay. And so, after the bomb...
Here's the thing, people who are involved in this kind of stuff, they don't talk too much about it, I mean, it's nothing that's a thing, anybody in this line of work doesn't tell you too much, right? Because you're not supposed to talk about it. So those guys who come up with all these war hero stories are usually, we call them Hafensänger, they're usually fakes, If you run into a guy who says, yeah, I'm a Navy SEAL, I was in this and this, and I killed Osama bin Laden, and I went to Entebbe with Israel, they're usually full of shit, because the real guys hardly talk about it. It's an exception when they do,
Yeah. I guess my question about Dave Holloway is he's still a contractor for NASA, which means he holds a security clearance. And he was investigated in PatCon. He was, part of a really controversial law firm with Kirk Lyons. Like, how does a guy like that get a security clearance? I mean, he talked to McVeigh too, 2 days before.
He didn't. That's been debunked. He thought he did, but it turned out he wasn't.
Okay.
Kirk Lyons can tell you all about it, probably. There was a saying that the guy called the Cause Foundation in North Carolina, and Holloway was on the phone, and this guy was telling about bombing stuff, and Holloway said, you shouldn't talk about this kind of stuff, it's illegal. And then after the bombing in Oklahoma, he reported to the FBI that phone call. He said, look, I got a phone call that day, and he thought it was McVeigh, but it turned out it wasn't. They followed the lead, and it was some other lunatic calling there. So no, Holloway did not talk to McVeigh. He thought so, but it didn't turn out to be untrue.
Okay, I'll have to ask Kirk about that. I thought McVeigh's calling card did show that he called the Cause Foundation.
No. Well, ask Kirk. I mean, he can tell you much more about it, but that's what I heard, that they thought they had a phone call from him, but turned out they didn't.
Okay. And after the bombing, you ended up in Black Mountain, and I shared some interesting records with Kirk Lyons the other day. I don't know if he passed them along to you, but there was informants swarming around Black Mountain at that time, I guess spying on you, apparently. Did you get a chance to look at those records that I sent Kirk, and do you have any reaction?
No. But the thing is, I stayed in Elohim City for a few more months after the bombing. Like for 6 more months at least.
Mm-hmm.
So if the place, if informants were swarming there, they didn't look for me, definitely. So, I was still in Elohim City.
Yeah.
And I had a falling out with Reverend Millar, and then I left, and I went back there, and then I was informed by Reverend Millar that he had a warning from the FBI, he should get rid of me or they get raided. And so I packed my stuff and left there for good. And I thought he was making it up because we had this kind of falling out before. But it turns out it was true, The FBI did approach him and said, hey, the ATF is planning a raid and they're using me as an excuse. Well, guess what? They used my immigration status. I was an overstay. Mm-hmm. They used that as an excuse to raid the place. Well, the FBI told them, sorry, we're not part of that. They tried to get immigration on board because I didn't have anything on me, except for my permit to stay was expired, right? That's all they had on me.
So
and the FBI said, well, that's not actually enough for a full state raid with support from the, National Guard and whatever they wanted to have.
And you're saying this happened after the bombing? Because I know the ATF had planned to raid Elohim City a couple months before the bombing, and the FBI stepped in and said, don't do that because we don't want another Waco. But what are you... So that happened again after the bombing?
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the FBI told Robert Millar that they'd raid you if Strassmeir doesn't leave?
Basically, yes. That's what that's what Millar told me, and I didn't believe him. But it turned out that the FBI actually was there talking to him.
Why would the FBI have interest in you at the time? Was this a bombing investigation or because of your immigration status?
No, I think the FBI did not want the ATF to raid the place because the scenario would be Ruby Ridge and Waco. Some agency, attacks, gets their ass kicked, and then the FBI has to step in and solve the situation. They were simply tired of this shit, Because at the end, they have it's the FBI who had egg all over their face in Waco. And they didn't initiate the FBI just got involved after the ATF got their ass kicked, those idiots. And the same thing happened with the federal marshals in the Ruby Ridge. And the FBI said, we're tired of this stuff. We don't want this anymore. So that's why I said, to Millar, get rid of the German guy, and then the ATF has no excuse to come. But the excuse they used was my immigration status, which is funny. I mean, they're letting thousands of Mexicans over the border without doing anything, but one German guy was an overstay. Was supposed to be an excuse for a raid on the community.
And sorry if I'm obtuse on this, but I'm familiar with the ATF's aborted raid in early '95, but it sounds like you're telling me that they were still considering raiding Elohim City even after the bombing just because of you and your immigration status. Am I understanding what you're saying correctly?
Well, that's my information. I don't know how much that is true.
Okay, no worries.
Maybe Millar wasn't. Maybe Millar was referring to an older, maybe it wasn't up to date what he told me. But that's how it appears to me.
Got it. Listen, I don't know how much time you have this tonight, but
I don't know. The FBI should know about this, and I read some stuff that the FBI was kind of. Basically, it's also told by the head of the FBI not to get involved in stuff like this. So it's quite complicated. And as I said, I don't have first-hand knowledge. I know what Millar told me, and I didn't believe him. But at the end, it turned out that actually he had contact to the FBI, and so my job was to help them to protect themselves. And if they're using me as an excuse to attack this community, then it would be clear that I have to leave, right? So I didn't want to put those people in danger. But it tells you that they didn't have anything on those people. They didn't have anything on me. they used immigration status for BTF operation. And because they had no cause, they went together with the INS. He said, look, you INS, you go there, and we go with you. They had nothing. And if any of those claims had been true, like we tried to kill Carol Howell, for example, don't you think there would be the FBI right over us next day? I mean, sorry.
I guess.
Or is there any evidence? See, here's the thing. I can tell you what basically happened in Elohim City. When, I don't know what year it was, when Waco got raided, I was walking down the road in the village, and two of the elders approached me and said, come on, we need to talk to you. I said, yeah. He said, do you know a guy named Vernon Howell? I said, no. I said, what about you from Texas? I said, yeah, I lived in Texas, but Texas is a big town. I don't know every person in Texas. So who's Vernon Howell? Well, I mean, Vernon Howell is David Koresh, you know that. So, and he said, well, he had a community and they got raided. I said, really? And so I looked it up and said, holy shit, yeah. And then I said, well, we know we are a target as well, so what can we do? And so I gave him a few and said, look, yeah, this and this and this. Don't do this and this, and avoid this. And one thing was, I said, look, Ruby Ridge was over a quarter of an inch length of a shotgun barrel. It's over nothing.
Yeah.
That make sure that there's no illegal weapons here. Don't buy weapons from any guy who could be an informant or a provocateur. Do not buy any weapons from anybody except I check them. Right? And don't put your fingerprint on any gun anybody shows you, any visitor shows you. Don't pay every speeding ticket. Don't avoid anything illegal, right? Because they will use that as an excuse. So basically, don't give them an excuse. And second, prepare for the case they're coming. And I said, how are you going to do that? I said, well, let me handle it. So, and we prepared ourselves, No, I don't want to go in detail. So, but it was pure defensive, right?
Yeah, I could understand the climate of fear after Waco. If I'm living at Elohim City, I'd probably be thinking that I might be next.
We were next. We were on the menu.
Yeah.
I mean, they all say, the right-wing so-called paranoia. Well, it's not a paranoia if it's true. I mean, if they're planning to raid you, you're not paranoid to prepare for that. I mean,
yeah, I guess I got a little sidetracked with Elohim City, though, because when I was telling you that there were informants spying on you, this was apparently a couple months after when you finally made it to Black Mountain. There were informants sent to spy on Kirk Lyons and you. And I sent these FBI records to Kirk the other day.
Okay.
Did you get a chance? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's possible, but I think I read a thing. I think somebody, it might be, I don't know if it came from you or something, about this FBI operation there in Texas. What's it called?
PATCON.
You meant the name of the operation?
PATCON.
PATCOM, yeah. And I read through this and I said, what a pile of shit, They had nothing. They're just wasting tax money spying on people with unpopular beliefs. Because here's the thing. First you have to find evidence, make arrests, and convict people. When you have convictions, then you did your job. Well, but it didn't happen with all the effort they put in there, right? And I think because they were spying on people who had unpopular beliefs, but were no threat. But they did miss McVeigh for some reason and that's why I think that he was kind of a U-boat, right? He wasn't connected to anybody. That's why he didn't really appear on the radar, I think.
Okay. Although you said PATCON didn't do anything but spy on people, John Matthews did say that he believes PATCON, the whole purpose of the operation was to provoke right-wing groups to violence.
That's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. I mean, I know that from after 9/11 with the Muslims, that every arrest they made as after for terrorist plots from Islamic extremists. They're all entrapments. Basically, an FBI agent gets some unstable person to do something, to buy some ingredients or some stuff, and then arrest him. You know, so that wasn't like So they're basically creating their own cases with the Muslims. You know, so yeah, that's possible that the FBI wanted to try to provoke people to do something.
And did you ever have?
I would be surprised. They definitely did it with the Muslims, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like they're doing it again with right-wingers the last couple years, but that's an aside. Did you ever have any dealings with a guy named Sean Kenny?
No, the name. At least he didn't introduce himself with his name. You know, who is Sean Kenny?
He was friends with Brescia and Scott Stedford and Kevin McCarthy, and he was out of Cincinnati, and the feds made him an informant to investigate the Aryan Republican Army. And the reason I mention this is because the documents I sent Kirk specifically say that an undercover informant from Cincinnati was sent to Black Mountain to spy on Kirk Lyons and Strassmeir. Now, I believe that guy was Sean Kenny because, you know, an Aryan Republican Army guy who was an informant from Cincinnati. I mean, that's a narrow list, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, here's the thing. That name doesn't ring a bell, but, you know, once in a while somebody popped up at Black Mountain, you know, and said, hey, you know, and you're claiming to be a member of the Patriot movement. I don't recall their names, so it's possible that he came there, maybe using a different name, or maybe I don't remember his name. There are too many of those types, right? And you don't trust them to start with. And anyone who pops out of nowhere, yeah, he had informant written all over, you know. So we weren't stupid, so.
Yeah, Kirk was telling me that there's an undercover FBI agent named David Rossi who was targeting you guys, and you all knew he was a Fed right from the get-go.
Targeting whom?
I guess just right-wing groups in general. David Rossi was an undercover FBI agent in PatCon, and I know he tried to get like Tom Posey to buy some Stinger or sell him some Stinger missiles and all kinds of crazy stuff in the early 90s.
The funny thing is, I'm not sure how reliable information was, but Posey supposedly was a phony. He was a talker. He was just a fraud. He was claiming to be some whatever military background and stuff, and he was. So the funny thing is, all he can come up with were kind of like night vision goggles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, see, the problem is, the Patriot movement, there are some sincere people there who are really concerned about what's going on in the country, but you have a large number of idiots over there, right, of wannabes and nutcases. It was a very, very mixed group, so to say, right? And many people who claim to be and some militia groups that are just a joke, you know. There's some bunch of old men with guns who can't even make it over an obstacle course and stuff, like a militia of Montana. You can't take those people serious, really, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. There's a book called Disposable Patriots, which is about Iran-Contra, and I guess Tom Posey, somehow he was very involved, but the book portrays him as a clown. Like, I don't know how he was able to get CIA support to go down to Nicaragua, like you said.
Did he actually go? That's the question, you know, or is it just him making up stories? That's my question here.
I know he was head of that group, Civilian Material Assistance, that was like specifically designed and backed by the CIA to support the Contras. And this is...
Well, maybe they did use him at some point as a useful idiot. I don't know.
Sure.
That But Posey was, I think Holloway, I think he met this guy at some point, and he told me this guy is full of shit, and he is just one of those, we call them geniuses in the movement. A genius is a guy who's claiming to have a military background, and you will be amazed how many ex-special forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs you meet there, who never served a day in the military, and they all make up war hero stories and stuff like this, and the movie was full of those people, actually. But some of militia guys, I remember Mark of Michigan. He was just a funny guy too. Mark Koernke, did his name ring a bell?
Maybe. No. Who was he though? I'm not too familiar.
He was putting videos out and stuff like this about patriot stuff and how to defend yourself against the federal government and stuff like this. And some of that, you need to see Mark Koernke, And I said, okay, so what's this thing? And I was just cracked up laughing and said, this guy is a complete idiot. He doesn't know anything about infantry combat or anything. Now, he said Mark Koernke claimed to be with the University of Michigan, and he claimed to work in military intelligence. The truth is, he worked for the university as a janitor, so basically cleaning the floor there. And his military experience was he was a clerk in the intelligence section of some infantry battalion. So that's the kind of people, who suddenly appear as, I'm this and this. They're all full of shit. And you can tell basically when they try to tell you something that they don't know what they're talking about. See, my military experience is limited. I'm an infantryman up to platoon leader level. I was trained up to company leader level. But that I do know, so I can tell if somebody served or not, and somebody knows about infantry combat or not. That's what used to be my job for 7 years, and also served with the British as on an exchange program, and so I pretty much know my job. And you can tell immediately that those guys, when they're telling you about the Green Berets and stuff like this, and they're telling you some stories. Immediately that they always trip over some details. They read everything you can read in the Soldier of Fortune, and they think they're informed, but they don't know any of this insider stuff. When you are actually in the military.
Yeah, these guys, they give themselves titles like Supreme Commander or whatever and stuff like that. Well, listen, I don't know how much time you have. I could pick your brain on this all night, but I know it's probably getting close to midnight, or maybe.
No, I'm a night worker, and I have no problem. So right now, you did catch me, and I don't know when the next time is. So if there's anything important you want to know about, to the clips, it is 100% made up, right? And the third video clip, I think it was the funniest thing. It wasn't only complete bullshit. It was bad filming. Okay, there's some attack dogs, right? And Carol Howard had a little broken stick and fenced them off, and then the dogs stopped. Sorry. Then she runs away, and nobody runs after her. I said, oh, she got away. What a pity. That's pretty bad, isn't it? Come on, do you watch action movies or something like this? Even for a fantasy movie, this is pretty bad. Yeah,
I agree there. Well, if you're still up for talking, I guess one thing you've mentioned, you said you only were infantry, but I seem to recall reading somewhere that you talked about being in counterintelligence or something like that. No? Okay.
No, I wasn't in counterintelligence. I was filling in my battalion for the intelligence officer while he was on a training course. But this was a battalion level, right? So, and basically you're the connection to the military intelligence service, and also you for the security on the base. But I was just filling in. I was a platoon leader. I was a motor fire control officer, and because this guy and I couldn't go on exercise with my unit because I had a foot injury, and since they call the S1 officer, the intelligence officer battalion, so the commanding officer put me in this office over there. So okay, you just sit there and basically get a desk job. because the intelligence officer was on some training course. So I did fill in for, I think, 2 weeks or so. But that's it. I mean, that's not really been involved in military intelligence.
Okay, so you were never part of the, and excuse me if I butchered the pronunciation, but is it the Panzer Grenadiers?
Well, Panzer Grenadier is the mechanized infantry in Germany.
Okay. So I was my understanding that that's some sort of equivalent of U.S. Special Forces.
Oh, that's the KSK, or the Fernspee, but no. These are all this nonsense people are making up, right? Panzer Grenadier means mechanized infantry. We have three kinds of infantry. We have Panzer Grenadier, then we have Jäger and Fallschirmjäger. So the Grenadiers, they have like light infantry tanks called Marder, and the Jäger, they have like armored only personnel carriers, and the Fallschirmjäger is airborne. So that's the three kinds of infantry we have, and the main part of infantry are actually the Grenadiers. Bit of mechanized infantry.
Okay, okay, so the London Sunday Telegraph that reported that you were tasked with feeding suspected Warsaw Pact spies disinformation. Is that total bullshit or what?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well,
I know that this was used by the intelligence service, but I wasn't involved in that.
Well, you certainly...
There was a time we call the MAD, Militärische Abschirmdienst, which is a military intelligence service in the German military. And there, I know that they were feeding, if they caught spies, they didn't remove them because then they would be replaced by another spy. They start filling them bullshit. And so then they were telling basically nonsense to their handlers. That basically discredits everything they said prior to their discovery. And I used this tactic with Carol Hauer, right?
Feeding her bullshit.
I was feeding a complete bullshit. Saying okay, then she reports that, and it turns out to be bullshit. So that basically, if she said anything true, which she didn't, then it would discredit everything she said before. That's. I was telling her once that I'm going to buy a case of hand grenades and told her exactly what it's going to be and stuff like this. I completely made this up.
Oh yeah, I remember reading that they wanted Carol to get you on film making grenades or something like that. So that stems from your disinformation tactic that you employed on her.
No, she would invite me for dinner, and of course I took a guy with me because I always have a witness with me. So I know she's a liar, and I don't want to end up accused of rape or some shit by her.
Yeah.
So I had a guy with me. And and what happened is another funny story that I was painting hand grenades. Now, the first thing is, if you have any experience, hand grenades come painted. You don't have to paint them. They're olive green, right? So, now what she had paperweights, and you get them as gun shows, and it's kind of popular. The disarmed hand grenades, basically the fuse is taken out, and they're drilled, the bottom is sawed off, and the explosives is taken out. They're basically paperweights, and there's nothing, they're harmless. And she had those, and she painted those. They were old World War II vintage hand grenades. They're not used anymore. They were metal and they were round, and she painted them as pumpkins. And she said, in orange. And she said she wants to use them for Halloween. If I can draw some. She gave me a felt tip pen. If I can draw some smileys and faces on them, which I did, right? So that's the thing, And apparently those are now at the evidence locker of the BATF, probably to call, little pumpkins with faces on,
Nice.
So yeah, I like this. Why don't you produce those hand grenades, please? Well, then of course she tried to ask me, well, can I make them? Can I rearm them? Can I make them work so that we can blow up things? And I said, I don't know, theoretically you could do that, but it's so complicated, it's much easier to get the real thing. I mean, who's going to make this,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes no sense. But I guess she hoped that, I think it was scripted that I would tell her, do this, and this, and then but, I was laughing and said, no, that's nonsense, only idiots do this. You know, I think she accused me that I converted firearms into full auto. Well, yeah, that's completely stupid. That doesn't make any sense, right? So.
Well, it's pretty easy to do. It's not rocket science to convert semi-auto to fully auto anyway. I mean,
yes, you could do that, right? Depends on the weapons. In some cases, just swapping the parts, right? But the thing is, if you can swap the part, why don't you get the working gun on the black market? You know, and the thing is, apparently with the Chinese and Russian rifles, the SKS, you can do that with a piece of metal. Now the problem is, why would you do this? Because you just wait. I mean, I'm in the military. We had selective fire, so our firearms were capable of full auto and semi-auto. In 99% of all cases, I fired the thing on semi-auto mode. When I was with the British, they had their rifles converted back to semi-automatic because experience from the Vietnam War, the Americans were blowing away ammunition like mad by pulling the trigger, right? And then, I mean, those were trained soldiers. So the last thing you want to give a civilian, full auto rifle, where you pull the trigger and then the magazine is empty with one burst. You know, that's bullshit. So that makes no sense. So first of all, there are only very few situations where you fire your rifle in full auto. This is when you attacked by airplane, or when the enemy is breaking into your position. You know, basically before you hand to hand, you just empty the magazine on the enemy. But this is a situation you would rarely come to if you're in the militia. So it's completely nonsense, right?
Okay, well that makes sense. You care to talk about how you ever ended up with guys like Kirk Lyons, like in the first place? A German kid, you self-described Zionist. I think I read you're fluent in Hebrew even. And
I'm not fluent. I could speak a little bit, but far from fluent, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I guess the question remains, like, how did you end up with these, I don't know if Kirk's still a white supremacist, but a white separatist or...
I think he considers himself as a conservative, probably what you say, a neo confederate or something like this. You know.
Yeah. How'd you ever link up with those guys?
Well, that's simple, because we had, I was involved when I was living in Germany in military civil war American civil war reenactment, and so was Kirk. And we had common friends in Germany. We were Americans who were in the military, and they were a reenactment group, and so that was a connection over our hobby. That's how I got in touch with those guys.
Okay. And
Kirk was a civil war reenactor, and so was I. And so that's basically the connection of this thing. It wasn't actually political or anything.
Why did you ever want to go to America?
I was just finished my military service, 7 years, and 7 years I had to go where the Army sent me without being asked, and suddenly I was free to go where I wanted. I had to get the permission of the military because I was still under martial law, because I was a member of the reserves, and I got permit to go America, and I decided I wanted to migrate. I said, well, Germany is boring, I want to become American, but it didn't work out really, so... Well, I had a guy, I prefer not to mention any names, because he did, first he doesn't live anymore, second he denied it when he was asked, but I had a person who was offering me a job in the federal agency in case George Bush Sr. gets elected. Well, Bush got elected, but this guy didn't get the job because he didn't agree with the terms or whatever. So I didn't get my job either. So I was there with my 2 duffel bags, my belongings in America, and okay, so that door was closed suddenly, and I had to figure a way to survive. I burned all my bridges in Germany. I didn't want to go back. So I tried a few things, and nothing worked really out, and at the end, I was getting a little bit upset in Houston, because things I tried didn't work out. They sent to me and said, well, go to Iran City. Go in the countryside, enjoy the nature, and relax. So that's what I did, and I was there as a visitor, and I ended up staying there for quite a few years. I think 4 years at least or so. I don't know. So that was that.
Kirk told me he was trying to set you up with an American girl, maybe get you naturalized citizenship, or just, I guess, give you a purpose in life. I don't know.
That was the larger plan, to live there, try to survive, and eventually you meet somebody, you get married to an American citizen at some point, and then that's it. That was a long-term plan, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I know you didn't.
There wasn't anybody specific he had in mind or so. It's just the thing of being a lawyer. He said, well, the easiest way is to stay here, stay under the radar. One day you get married, and once you're married, you just claim get your green card or whatever, or citizenship or whatever. So,
and the guy who tried to give you a job with the federal agency, that was Vincent Petruski, right?
I don't comment on that.
Okay. You could see why some people would raise red flags. Well, this guy, he's being accused of being a federal asset, and he actually tried to get a job with the feds, and then he's involved with, Elohim City. Some bank robbers lived at Elohim City too, who might have been involved in the bombing. I mean, these are quite the series of coincidences.
Yeah, if you're an outsider, probably.
Well, I am an outsider, but it's still,
Yeah, if you're an outsider, it might look funny because, my girlfriend, who was a journalist, she told me, it's your own fault. If you would be a shoe salesman, they would never made up this shit about me. I said, yes, but I'm not a shoe salesman, right? So, I think people's fantasies go there with, yeah.
Okay.
But there's no substance to it. The thing is that they tried, you probably heard about this, I tried to buy aeroplanes,
Yeah.
And they made a big story out of it. Well, I translated a letter because I'm bilingual, apparently. Mm-hmm. So I translated a letter to Lufthansa because there was an inside information that they're planning to sell some planes, and a small airline over another guy I know, he said, this airline wants to buy planes, and when you write them in German, which was complete bullshit because they speak English at Lufthansa. So I said, I'll write a letter for you. And he said, if we make the purchase, you get a cut. I said, okay, cool. I write a little letter and get money for that. So I did write this letter. But then they made something out of it, right? So what? What's the connection there? Okay, after 9/11, you might think, okay, but that was long before,
Do you think you were being set up or something? Or why would they even approach you to write a letter? Just to be a translator?
Yeah. Well, this person figured he was a broker, right? He figured if I write a letter in German, it might be more appealing to the German Lufthansa than if somebody writes them in English.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And that private airline was Evergreen?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I said I was talked to a broker.
And a lot of your buddies from that time nicknamed you Sofa-Meyer. I guess you're kind of had your reputation as the guy who crashes on somebody's couch. Do you agree with that characterization?
I didn't catch the end.
Oh, do you agree with that characterization of you at the time of this couch surfer?
I was traveling around and trying to get started, and I was hanging out at people's places and spending time on the sofa. Yes.
Nice.
But no, yeah.
And you worked for Louis Beam for a short period of time. Was that one of the things you were attempted to do, or why didn't that work out?
No.
You didn't work for Louis?
No, never planned anyway, so never planned, never did. Working doing what?
I think he had a computer company or something in Texas.
Yeah, and I'm computer illiterate. I still have trouble with my computers here.
Hey.
As you might notice that I couldn't even get my microphone to work. So there's one thing I don't know nothing about is computers. So.
Okay, that definitely I can confirm that. So you're kind of couch surfing, trying to get your life together. What were some of the odd jobs that you did before you ended up in Elohim City?
I was trying to sell some artwork, and I was a courier driver for a company, for a computer company, but that wasn't Louis Beam, right? It
wasn't Louis Beam.
Basically, picking up parts from the suppliers, and then driving back with the duds, with the ones that didn't work. So I was constant driving around through Houston. So the only job I had in Houston, I think. And in Elohim City, I was just doing all kind of stuff, construction and logging and whatever. So that's the thing. Out in Oklahoma, I don't know, are you familiar with Oklahoma?
No, not at all.
Familiar with where you from, actually? Where you based?
Ohio, and now I'm living in North Carolina, and I recently went out to interview Kirk about his time at Waco, and that's kind of how we got connected, you and I.
Okay. Yeah. No, Oklahoma used to be the Indian Territory, and the law ended at Fort Smith. And Oklahoma still has this outlaw mentality, right? Even the white people living there, because the only white people living in the territory were fugitives of the law. So the Okies have a very, very attitude towards authorities, law, and so if you want to be under the radar, and when we left alone by the FBI, that's a good place to be, right? I mean, maybe that was a reason that Millard, he's actually from Canada, he and his family, and they had a community in Maryland, and then they moved to Oklahoma, because Oklahoma is a perfect environment if you want to be left alone, right? So, and people and your neighbors people don't cooperate with. So we had this thing. I was with a friend of mine in Elohim City. We were working for renters, taking down fence lines and rebuilding fences, and we would get paid by a check. So what the FBI did, they looked up at the banks who wrote the checks for us. Then I went to those people and said, "Are you employing those guys? Don't you know what they are? And they're bad people." And the Okies said, "Get the fuck out of here! They're good guys. We don't know you." So some suits from Washington coming there in Oklahoma and asking about questions. They weren't well received by the people over there. So they have this still kind of a little bit anarchist outlaw mentality. They don't like law. They don't like federals over there. And the Indians don't like them at all, I mean, that's the thing. So being in the Indian territory is still a good place to be. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think your driver's license and some other documents listed you as a Tennessee resident. How did you ever end up as a Tennessee resident?
Oh, I knew a guy over there, and I registered my car over there, my driver's license, because he didn't need insurance. I think Iowa and Tennessee were the two states where you don't need an insurance.
Okay.
For the car, so.
Can I ask who the guy you knew there was?
Yeah, I don't remember the name, so you can ask, and I can honestly say no idea.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing is quite a while ago, so.
Doc Grady, that name wouldn't ring any bells, would it?
I think I met the guy only once or twice, so and I'm not good with names to start with, so honestly I can't say really.
Good.
And if I knew, I probably wouldn't tell you, because I don't, why dragging people into that, that aren't involved, to be honest, so. True.
The reason I find that interesting is because as part of the PatCon investigation, the FBI was planning to raid Doc Grady's place which is in Knoxville, Tennessee. He had a religious compound, I guess similar.
No. This guy was a mainstream guy. Right? I mean, he was not involved my contact in Tennessee was not involved in anything political or religious or community-wise. No, he was a...
Yeah, he was the head of the American Rifles and Pistols Association, Doc Grady was.
Oh, no, never heard of those. No, I read about them in this little thing I got here about, what's this, not DEFCON, what's the other, this FBI operation.
PATCON?
PATCON, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I never met Doc Grady, but the FBI records describe him as having a religious compound. They were going to raid it. John Matthews even infiltrated the place and I guess scoped it out with David Rossi, but then they called off the raid after Waco. I think in July 1993 they closed PATCON because they didn't want another Waco disaster. And yeah, I just find that interesting. If you knew the guy, your driver's license is Knoxville, Tennessee. If you had any dealings or knew anything about that.
No, I can tell you that wasn't him. That was there was a mainstream guy who wasn't involved at all in anything of that.
Okay. Oh, the guy you knew was a mainstream.
I read
guy.
about a guy in this group there yesterday on this little article I've been sent by Kirk, I think.
That might have been my article, if it's about Doc Grady.
See, the thing with PETCOM, I think the reason they pulled the plug because they couldn't produce any results. We're talking about tax money, and the FBI has to justify, when they have a load of agents there doing nothing, come up with nothing over the years. So they say, hey, and I said they're basically wasting taxpayers' money by infiltrating and I think this McVeigh disaster was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're right-wingers, and they're going to be militant, they're going to be terrorists. And then suddenly somebody actually did, and they were all caught off guard. Because I think they were spying on the wrong people, I would say. Yeah, that's my suspicion.
Why would they close PATCON right after Waco, though? I mean, that should be the time where you expand PATCON because you got to... the Waco happens, you piss off a bunch of right-wingers, like, you're not going to draw back on your undercover operations. Like, that's insane.
Well, look, I'm not the FBI, but the thing is, I don't know how long was this operation going. You say, okay, you've been here 2 years, no arrest, no convictions, so, sorry, guys, they have to justify the expenses. I don't know what kind of committee that is that they haven't, but they can't just waste taxpayers' money and not come up with anything.
I guess the theory I subscribe to right now is that they officially closed PATCON, but they turned to a cutout organization, the SPLC, to do the FBI's dirty work, and there are FBI memos about having SPLC informants at Elohim City.
Of course.
Who are those people? Do you know who might have been the SPLC informants?
There are many candidates. We had this guy, they called him the good Dr. Josias, I don't know what the real name was. He came up there and he says, I've been at Waco and blah, blah, blah. And so I called Kirk up and say, hey, you know this guy there? He said, nah, nobody ever heard of him. So, okay, liar. And he turned out to be an informant, right? And he was a liar. The thing is, you can spot an informant, an undercover agent, actually. If you've been around and you're not a Jesus freak, right, you can spot those guys,
What was your reaction when you found out that the SPLC was spying on Elohim City? That had to upset a lot of people.
I didn't know it was the SPLC. I had no idea if it's the FBI, IBA, or whatever agency, but the guy's an infiltrator. It doesn't matter who he's telling to,
Okay. But you do know that the SPLC had informants at Elohim City.
Now, you told me that. I'm not surprised, but I didn't know that they were working for the SPLC. I thought they might be for the FBI or the BA. It doesn't matter. They are informants, and the place was crawling with informants. Mm-hmm. Right? That was my impression. That's the thing what I said. That's why instructions I gave to the guys that don't touch a weapon any visitor shows you. Don't buy any weapons from anybody. if anybody comes with weapons, right, send them to me, and I said, don't leave a fingerprint on any gun over there, right? Because I knew all those guys were working, They don't play by the rules. They try to entrap you. And I said, look, they show you a gun, you say you want to touch it, you put your fingerprints on there, they pack it back in their car. Next thing, the thing is found in the crime scene. Here you go.
Yeah, no.
And the next thing is you have the HRT flying on here in here. That don't. And the thing is, religious people who just always see the good in people, they're really hard to convince that, hey, you have to be careful. They're not, when they were good people, they were not stupid at all, but they were very naive.
Yeah, that sounds like the same thing that happened at Waco, for sure.
Absolutely.
Can I ask?
Here's the thing: they knew they knew they were infiltrated. They knew who the infiltrators were, and they didn't do anything. Koresh told him, he told them, well, now it's time to make a decision instead of taking those assholes hostage, using them as living shields. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Yeah, it's difficult to deal with religious people, to be honest. It's sometimes very hard to argue with them and to convince them, and I was always a little bit concerned about people coming over there, and but the thing is, on the other hand, they couldn't come up with any information, right? And was this Dr. Josias actually? And the reason I told him, look, the guy's an infiltrator. Don't trust him or whatever. And somehow his wife was talking to one of the wives of the members, and she actually admitted that her husband works for the government for some reason. So that was really funny. So in one case, it got actually confirmed that I was right about the guy.
Interesting. And
Dr. Josias was his stage name, I guess.
Dr. Josias. Okay, maybe I'll ask Jesse Trenadu about him. I have never heard of that name.
It wasn't his real name, but that's what he called himself.
Okay.
And he was full of shit. He was there and there. He was at Ruby Ridge, and he was at Waco. So I made 2 phone calls and said, okay, never ever heard of this idiot. So okay, here we go. So. And if somebody starts with a lie, right, then you say, okay, what's wrong with this guy, right?
And how'd you make it out of the country with an expired visa, ATF's targeting you, INS is informed? How does that work?
Well, yeah, first of all, I had my passport, well, even getting worse, my passport was expired, right? So I had to get a passport from the German consulate in Atlanta, and so I got a passport, and I left the country. I went over the Mexican border. Somebody, a friend of me arranged that. I said, well, take some detours. Don't take a flight to Germany because there might, So I crossed over to Mexico, and then I took a plane from Mexico to France. Not even Germany. And then we took a train from France to Germany, just to be on the safe side. But the thing is, I wasn't on a wanted list or anything. I don't think, because they would have. I mean, they could have got me any time, I think. Right. But those were a precaution. My friends said, said no, we do that and that, and so and actually, my papers got checked at the Mexican border, right?
And did they
by the I don't know who did it. I think customs or American officials. They said, okay, show me your papers, So I showed them and. Everything cool, and I searched my bag for anything, any contraband in there, drugs or something, weapon, so everything clean. So, okay, you guys can go. Then I knew that I wasn't on any watch list or anything.
And did they ask you about your expired visa?
No, my visa wasn't expired. My visa is still valid, actually. if you want to leave the country, they don't give a shit. I mean, you're leaving the country, so hey, you know.
I thought that's the whole reason the ATF wanted to raid Elohim City in the first place, because you were staying there.
No, I wasn't. It was so-called overstay. Now it works. You get a visa, and I got my visa when I was still in the military. So it was like I don't know, what's H1, H2, which is basically was tourism and business, and it was unlimited. So it never expired. My visa. It was an unlimited. It was an unlimited visa. But when you enter the country, you get a little paper slip, which is I don't know what it's called. It's a permission to stay, right? And you say how long you want to stay in the country, and you say, well, 3 months, 6 months. I think you can go up to 6 months. Then what's your purpose? And you say, I'm doing business. You get a little stamp in there, and gets this little paper. I forgot what the proper name is. And then you're in the country, and you're in. And when you leave, you're supposed to turn it in the plane. They collect it then, but you don't have it. They can't collect it, so.
Okay.
So if you stay longer than your permission to stay, you're so-called an overstay. You're not an illegal immigrant. You're not an illegal alien. You're just an overstay because you have a valid visa, but your permission to stay is expired. Well, then you have to leave the country for 3 weeks and come back and take another 6 months. So that's all. I mean, it's and there are companies in Texas. They had like Europeans hired, and they send them every 6 months on a 3-week vacation. Have them come back because they don't have a working visa. And that's, you can play that game forever, actually. Right.
So how would they even find out that you've overstayed? Were you informed on? Did somebody snitch you out, or?
No, they're probably, when they found out, they might have. I mean, if you're targeted by the BATF, they probably, and you're a foreigner, they probably checked with the immigration service. Said, hey, and then they say, yeah, well, he entered at that time, and he was supposed to be like this, and if he's still there, then he is an overstay. So that's pretty. Okay. I think that they cross-checked with the immigration service, and they could get this information pretty easy because it's on record.
Why was the BATF targeting you in the first place?
Well, I don't know. So, I think they were targeting Elohim City.
Okay, and they learned.
And they sent Carol Howell there. And then she found me and said, oh, there's this German guy, right? And he's ex-military and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, interesting, No, I think I was just the excuse they made up to raid Elohim City. The target was Elohim City, definitely, not me, I mean.
Okay.
I mean, why would they use me as an excuse? See, if they want to have a warrant for me, let's say they have a warrant for my person. All I have to do, wait outside the dirt road, and whenever I go to town shopping, they snatch me. That's what I could have done with David Koresh in Waco. If I had an arrest warrant, just wait until he went to his hairdresser once a week. Just wait until he's there and arrest him.
Yeah.
So it would be very easy to arrest me. Just wait until I leave the Elohim City, and then arrest me on the road.
Yeah, I wonder why they never did that.
Yeah, because they weren't interested in me. They wanted another show. Waco didn't work out. They said, shit, we're looking stupid. Now we're doing better next time. So the next time we get reinforcement, we get more people. We get the FBI on board, we get the INS on board, and we get the National Guard, preferably with helicopters and tanks or whatever. I mean, let's face it. In Waco, nobody was military trained, though. I saw it. A bunch of Jesus freaks, and they kicked their ass because they were so stupid, incompetent. Those guys, right? You see, the thing is, the BATF, they're desk jockeys. They're clerks. They work for the Yes, on federal you have the FBI hostage rescue teams. Every police department has a SWAT team, and every sheriff's department has a SWAT team. Why do we need a SWAT team for the BATF? They just want to have one. They're playing ninjas with their black suits and pretending being some hard-ass Rambos. And that whole thing, you probably know that. It's the whole thing, that Waco thing happened. Because after a while, people were saying, well, what have you done? How often have you used your SWAT team? And they didn't have it. They didn't use it because there was no purpose. And they wanted to pull the finances. So they decided to have the Operation Showtime, and Waco was actually, that was the name for Waco, Showtime. They said, okay, we have a high-profile raid on some people, and then people know that we need it, that we're necessary. And they picked some people who can defend themselves, some religious guys. I mean, they could have gone after some street gangs or some dangerous people, right? I mean, no, they decided to go after a religious community, but it didn't work out. They got their ass kicked, and then the FBI had to bail them out in the massacre. So that went wrong. So I think they decided to have another operation, and it was Elohim City. And that's why I think that Oklahoma City might have been another operation from the ATF. You know, would be nice to arrest a guy with a bomb in the garage under the building. That would be the heroes. And again, it went wrong. So that's my suspicion about the whole thing. It would fit the pattern, to be honest.
It certainly would. I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but what's your opinion of Peter Langen, one of the Aryan Republican Army guys?
No idea. Never met this guy.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
Because he's accused Kevin McCarthy and Scott Stedford of being involved in the bombing.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any credibility to that?
No.
Why do you think Langen would be making such an allegation?
Well, you might be singing from a sheet, as we know that. You know, saying, hey, you know, we can make your life easier in prison here, just, you know, say this, you know. Or he thinks he might either been asked to do so, or he does it by himself because he thinks he can make an improvement. I don't know. You know, you should ask him.
I'd say it's a her now, by the way. He had a sex change in prison, but that's a...
Yeah, no, he was a cross-dresser before, I heard.
Yep. But
I think he had nail polish on when they arrested him.
That's right. The thing I find interesting is that, you know, you got these Aryan Republican Army characters, McCarthy, Stedford, and Brescia all get relatively light sentences, and they're the ones that Langen says was involved with the bombing, while Langen's serving life in prison. That's a little odd. That suggests to me that maybe these other guys got a lighter sentences to keep their mouth shut about the bombing.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, I heard about the so-called connection with Timothy McVeigh, and no, I don't think so. I think they weren't involved at all. And I think the head guy is dead, I think, from the ARA.
Yeah, Richard Lee Guthrie?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Another suicide case where he was apparently saying that he was about to give an interview to the LA Times about the bombing, and then he ends up dead a couple days later. I mean, this is...
Yeah, well... yeah, but, you know... The thing is, I think Langen and this other guy who killed himself, or supposed to kill himself, they were the heads of the gang, right?
Yes.
And I think Stedford didn't get a life sentence, did he?
I think he might have got about 20 years, but Brescia got 5 years and McCarthy got 6, and they didn't even serve their full sentences, and now they're free men with, you know, I assume relatively happy lives.
Yeah, well, I think Michael Brescia just joined at at the very end, when they were already done with their, I don't think he took part in any bank robbery. That's why he got a light sentence. And McCarthy was singing like a fink. He was cooperating, and Stedford wasn't. I mean, that's the information I had from this. Stedford got the full sentence because he refused to cooperate. Now, McCarthy turned key witness, and also he had an uncle who was in the police force that might have helped him a little bit. And Brescia just was, I mean, he wasn't really involved. He just joined the gang after, but he didn't do anything himself, so that's why he got a light sentence, I mean.
Yeah, well, I guess the funny thing is McCarthy was turned state's witness after Langan accused McCarthy of being involved in the bombing. I think Langan was going to have Mark Thomas testify to that effect, and then they indict Mark Thomas, so Mark Thomas can no longer testify that McCarthy was involved. I mean, that's...
Well, Mark Thomas was the head behind the whole thing, I heard.
The head of the ARA?
Well, no, but he was yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't part of the gang, but it was his idea, actually. And he was a guy, and that's, I mean, you have to check up because this is just information, it's not firsthand, that he basically got Brescia and McCarthy to join the gang.
Interesting. What's the significance of that, do you think?
There's no significance. I think you had Langan and what's the other, and Guthrie? What's the name, Guthrie?
Guthrie, yeah.
Guthrie and maybe Scott Stetford, I don't know, doing stuff. And then I think that they were just Langan and Guthrie. And Mark Thomas, I think, kind of got in touch or met with them. And then he had this, because I think they were just bank robbers, those two guys. Mm-hmm. And Mark Thomas had this great idea to turn political and get some right-wing guys and give this whole thing a revolutionary twist. And so he fixed up some of his acquaintances with those two guys. And so, but basically, he might be the founding father of the ARA. Before that, Langan and Guthrie were just bank robbers. Mm-hmm. He probably got Scott Stetford first. He was still in Philadelphia. Michael Brescia joined after I left the country. Now, Kevin McCarthy, I remember, he was staying in Ilum City at this time, right? And he told me that he had everything going for him. It was he was a good boy, to be honest. He said, well, some friends back in Philadelphia need his help. And I said, don't go there. I mean, no, whatever their problem is, just stay here, live your life. It didn't sound good to me when he said, some friends need help. There's one of the things what is a red flag kind of, God, and he was basically recruited by Mark Thomas. Now, to understand, McCarthy is an orphan, right? And Mark Thomas raised him like a son. So when Mark Thomas asked him, he couldn't say no. No, Brescia was actually building a house in LMC and wanted to get married to one of the women he was dating there. And he and Ron Miller got in a fight somehow, and he had to go. So basically, he had nowhere to go, and I think that's when he joined the ARA.
So McCarthy was like a son to Thomas, and yet Thomas was going to testify that he was involved in the bombing? I wouldn't do that to my son.
No, it doesn't sound. I mean, I see that all of the stuff you're telling me here. That sounds very weird, and I don't know how much substance there is to that. Because the first time I hear about it.
Okay, that's fine. If you're not familiar with Peter Langan's specific allegations, I could send you an affidavit he's filed. I guess the most compelling, I know a guy or girl, whatever, trans person serving life in prison might just accuse his former buddies out of spite, but the compelling thing I find is that Terry Nichols was going to have Langan testify at his trial about the ARA helping fund the bombing, And then an FBI agent testified that, well, no, Kevin McCarthy couldn't have been involved because he was in Iowa at the time, when in fact McCarthy had already told the FBI that he was like in Kansas. So the FBI contradicted their own person's alibi. And that, to me, that's just highly suspicious. And that suggests that there is a cover up and the ARA is involved. But I'll send you some articles I've written about Langan. It's just a very interesting character to me. Then maybe you could just respond in writing, and once you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know those guys, and what I heard is basically, I heard a little bit what happened from Kirk, who kind of followed the trial. And I think the Michael Brescher trial was followed by his girlfriend, who lives in still lives in Elohim City. So we know a little bit what was going on there. But my information is that and the thing is, I think McCarthy cracked when he found out that his boss basically was testifying, right? And I say, normally you keep your mouth shut, but once your boss is trying to make deals, then you have to make a deal while the deal is still hot, and that's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
So he said, and I think that's why he was relatively young, McCarthy. I don't know, he was a young kid, right? And they probably cut a deal. And I think his uncle was in the police force. That helped maybe a little bit, so.
Sure.
He does cooperate, and he cooperated with them. But there are some things that are much more suspicious, like James Ellison, for example. There are things that were, you talk about informants. I think the FBI's man in Elohim City was James Ellison.
Yeah, he was sent there after the bombing, though, right?
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure if he started visiting there before or after or in between. I can't really tell. I don't know. He started popping up there, and I had a very bad feeling. I didn't want to be near this guy, right? I mean, when he popped up there, I went on extended hunting trips, not to be with him, right? I didn't want. And that's when he made a move on one of Millar's granddaughters, and when they were getting together, and he was basically his foot in the door, getting married to one of the girls. And that's when I had this kind of falling out with Reverend Millar. I said, you can't have this guy over here. And he said, well, it's not up to me to say because I'm a guest there. And that basically was the falling out we had, over the person of James Ellison. And here's the thing, Ellison was still on probation. Now, he wasn't even allowed he was living in Florida. He wasn't allowed to leave Florida. He wasn't allowed to be with any group that's considered suspicious for the government. He wasn't allowed to carry firearms, right? Now here's a guy, and trust me, on a person like Ellison, the FBI would never let him go. They would always have him on the radar. They don't let this guy like him ever. They knew exactly what he was doing, but they didn't arrest him. He was violating probation left and right.
Yeah, that screams informant to me.
Absolutely. And also he was, how does informants work actually? I mean, like I say in a non-political, you take a petty criminal and you turn a blind eye on his little things, his little thefts or whatever he's doing. In return, every police force have the little informants in the scene, right? Mm-hmm. So they turn a blind eye on this person's crimes while this guy is informing, giving them tips, Now, Ellison was stealing stuff. He was a thief, right? He was stealing from all over, And then he just was distributing stuff in Elohim City, And I said, look, I got a present for you guys. And I said, Jesus Christ, don't touch this shit, it's stolen. And I said, okay, he's doing violating probation, doing everything in the book he wasn't allowed to do. And the FBI doesn't do anything. So you're right. I mean, that screams informer. Now, funny enough, Ellison accused me at some point being an informer. And that's funny, because he said his trouble started after he met me, right? no, Allison, your trouble has not started. You didn't get arrested for any of the shit you done. You know what I mean? Who are you trying to fool? I mean, no, Allison is a real piece of dirt in my eyes, all right? First of all, you know, I don't agree with anything of his radical stuff he did at CSA. Then he turned on his own people, and that's for me the lowest thing, right?
Yeah, true.
He turned key witness against his own followers, and then he's bold enough to pop up in Elam City and I think he wanted to take over, actually. I think that was his plan was. Have you any idea what happened? Is the guy still alive, or is he still in Elam City? Do you know anything about this guy?
That's a good question. I bet if you look up on the SPLC's website, you might be able to find him, but I don't know where he is now, if he's still active, or I don't know what's going on at Elohim City at all, to be honest. I kind of think after this show there might be some idiot tourists who might try to go there or something like that.
Yeah, I have to probably get some unwanted publicity. I don't know. I have no contact with them for quite a while. So on my Facebook, I have some former members there, but I don't really keep in touch with them. You know. I mean,
and I take it the show isn't very popular in Germany. Nobody's ever approached you on the streets, or your friends or relatives aren't being like, "Hey, you're on the TV, Andy."
Well, Showtime is not available in Germany.
Yeah, well, if you have a VPN, but like you said, you're not a computer guy, so.
Yeah. I think Germans don't really. They're on Netflix or Amazon Prime and stuff like this. I don't think. I mean, I never heard. Showtime has never been. I never seen any advertisement of it, so I don't know if. I don't think it's used in Germany widely. You know, You probably can get access to it, yeah, but I don't think people are too interested in the stuff. Well, it's in English anyway, so yeah, Germans prefer German stuff in Germany. I mean, everything is dubbed actually in Germany. So
right.
So there's a chance that might be in Germany that some company is buying it and dubbing it. So there's a chance that this is going to come to Germany, but. I know, but right now there is no. I haven't had any. Well, it might come. I'm bracing for impact. There might be people trying to get in touch with me, over this stuff. So, there was an increase in activities. I'm on Academia Edu, and I always get a message when somebody searches me on Google. So there have been a couple of people lately, and it was an increase. Normally there was one search of me in 5 weeks or so. And now there are a couple a day, so that was an increase, and people are looking me up in Google, But
yeah, I think the increase or the interest is only going to increase as we approach the 30th anniversary. I think. Well, you just had the John Ronson, Carol Howe podcast. You got this show, and I think there's like another 3 or 4 documentaries in the works. I think HBO's working on something. So, I think there's 90s nostalgia. People are interested in stuff like the OJ trial, Oklahoma City, and all that stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah, because many people weren't even alive back then when this happened,
Yeah, I was probably 6 years old.
Yeah. I understand that this might be interesting for some people, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, it's difficult that because a lot of people are dead in the meantime, so that's kind of difficult. That if I take if I would take legal action, some of the witnesses aren't around anymore. That's the problem. The people I worked for on the day. Some people suggested that I'm John Doe number 2, which is ridiculous. And for that point, what Kirk prepared, he looked up the people I worked for that day, and he could confirm that they confirmed that I was working there in the morning, so I couldn't be in 2 places at the same time.
Yeah, just to be clear, I think it's retarded to think you're John Doe too. You don't look anything like the description, and I don't even think any serious researchers are suggesting that. When John Ronson told you that, I'm like, come on, dude, this is like really sloppy work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he suggest that, yeah?
I think he's like, Andy, everybody thinks it's you. And then you had to tell him, like, well, no, John.
Yeah, well, maybe he was just poking, I mean.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't know. No, I think he was convinced I'm involved. I mean, I talked to him several times years ago, right? Because he knew, I said I was dating a BBC journalist, and she knew him, and that's was the kind of connection, that's the only one. And he was going on, and I met with him in England at some point and stuff. He was always hoping that something might come up, he might discover something, but yeah, I think he was maybe a little too optimistic, he was barking up the wrong tree.
Well,
like a lot of other people did. But I think there was, from certain sides, there was an attempt to drag Elohim City and my person into that thing. And I think this TV series is just another thing. But my impression about the whole thing is, I can't help it. The whole thing, especially the scene with Carol Howard, it's ridiculous. Grandpa didn't have attack dogs. He didn't like dogs, right, to start with. And, nobody tried to kill her because Grandpa actually was sticking up for her every time I told him to get rid of Carol Howard, right? And the whole scene, this really looks like some shit out of the brain of Carol Howard's fantasy universe, to be blunt. I mean, where did the producers of this film get the idea?
Yeah,
they must have based it on something.
That's a good question.
And my suspicion is Carol Howard. I know Carol Howard was for years trying to sell her story to the film industry. She doesn't have a story.
I think I read somewhere that like Rahm Emanuel, somebody like him, bought the rights like 10 years ago. That's.
Yeah.
That's.
Another guy was fooled by Carol Howard.
Yeah. Well, I'll lay my cards on the table. I don't think you were directly involved. I still think you know more than what you're telling me because there's just too many coincidences for, bank robbing Nazis who, built bombs. If you look at the Aryan Republican Army, their movements matched McVeigh. They were in Kansas, Arizona, Oklahoma at the same time. There's just too many coincidences, and I do think there were some Nazis who were helping out McVeigh. And hopefully one of these days, maybe you'll want to actually spill the beans.
Well, look, I don't expect you to believe me, but I told you everything I know about this.
Okay.
I'm not involved with McVeigh or anything. I wasn't involved with the ARA at all, and even on my FBI file, they asked McCarthy, and the guy said, well, how comes this German guy wasn't with you? And they said, well, we didn't ask him because we thought you wouldn't be interested in this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's, of course, you can't everything for truth what's on the FBI file, but anyway, it's something. And to be honest, I heard about the existence of the ARA after I was back in Germany. I had no idea what those guys were up to, and they were smart enough not to tell me.
So it was after the fact that you discovered that your roommates were Aryan bank robbers?
Pardon me? What was the question?
So you get back to Germany and you realize that, hey, those guys, McCarthy, Brescia, a guy that was my roommate for a while, they were actually part of the Aryan Republican Army. You didn't find that out until later?
Exactly. I remember McCarthy leaving and say he's helping friends. Okay. Then I heard that Michael Brescia, I was in North Carolina, and I heard that Michael Brescia was leaving Elohim City because he had a run-in with John Millar. And but the whole thing but it was basically they didn't know. They didn't know, back then they didn't know the existence. They called it the Midwest Bank Robbers. That's how I nicknamed the gang. You might have heard about this. And I think only after the arrest they figured out that, there's a connection between the right wing. They thought those guys are simple bank robbers because that were what they used to be, right? But it was basically what's the Mark Thomas idea apparently. This is pretty good. Do you know this series? Which I mean, it's a lot of bullshit, but it's called the FBI Files. It's a TV series.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't think I've watched an episode on OKC, though.
No, there wasn't one so far, but there is one on the ARA.
Oh, is that right?
And there's one on James Allison as well. And you know what's really funny is what I had to laugh?
Why is that?
There is one episode where it's about the CSA and the raid. And they're referring everybody with names, and Reverend Millar is named, and the thing. But they all refer to Allison as the leader. They never state his names in the film. Isn't that funny?
I wonder why the reason for that would be because he's.
Yeah, I mean, the host is always they refer to him as the leader, and I was just cracked up laughing. I mean, they know that Allison was head of the CSA, and they never mentioned his name. So, well.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is.
No, if you find out what anything about this guy, I would be really out of curiosity what this about this guy, right? Because yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to dig around and see what I can find. You mentioned your FBI file, and you said anybody could file a Freedom of Information request on Strassmeir and discover all the truth.
Yeah, you know who did. That's how my friend, Jesse Trentino, filed for that. He wanted to know what happened to his brother, right? And he probably tripped over my name, and he had the thing released, actually.
Well, no, he told me that they wouldn't give him, the FBI and other government agencies wouldn't give him records about you because of the Privacy Act, and then he tried to convince you to sign a privacy waiver, and you initially agreed, but then I guess you never did that.
That's bollocks. My girlfriend, she got it. She got my file.
Did you sign the privacy waiver?
I don't think so.
So you have record. So your girlfriend got records on you, but not Jesse then, because Jesse says he never got the records he sought because you wouldn't sign the privacy waiver.
To be honest, I don't trust Jesse Trentino. I think he's full of shit, to be honest. I'm sorry what happened to his brother, right? But I mean, I don't trust him. I mean, he's full of it. I mean, he is making wrong claims and stuff like this. He is highly suspicious.
Well, what would his motive be? He's just trying to get justice for his brother.
Well, exactly. But he might get caught up in some kind of, conspiracy theories, and as I said, for some reason he thinks I'm involved in anything or whatever, and I don't know why he couldn't get my file if other people could. That makes me a little bit suspicious.
Suspicious that he's lying, or that why?
Well, yeah, I mean, if people can get my files, why can't he? Or why you say that he can't? I mean, it's a good question. Are you in touch with him?
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you ask him next time? Say, hey, and his ex-girlfriend, she's a journalist. She showed him his file, and he looked through it and said, okay, pile of garbage. When I looked at it, I mean, I didn't read all of it, but the some part of it. So yeah. So it's basically nothing, to be honest, so. I
guess, what do you mean by FBI file? Because Jesse's been asking for, any and all records the FBI holds that references you, so.
No, I have a file, apparently. I guess some people have a file at the FBI. I have a file with a former communist, with the Stasi, I was an officer. I also have a file with the German police because I was there as a witness at some point. So the FBI probably has a file, and it's called Andreas Strassmeir. And as I said, my ex-girlfriend, she got hold of it, and she had a big kind of a stack of paper A lot of names blackened out, of course, and she's looked at it, had some questions about some stuff, and basically nothing, except one thing was really laughable. I think it was my file that they think that Holloway flew me out of the country, with all that Air America flew me out, or CIA flew me out of the country, which is funny because that's complete nonsense, Yeah.
He flew with you, not...
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Holloway was, I think that why not? He was flying for Air America ages ago, right? And he is a pilot. I mean, I know that he was flying helicopters for some fire department at some point and stuff. So he is definitely a pilot, and he was supposedly flying for Air America. And he accompanied me on my way home. Well, I took a flight from Cancun to Paris, and he was with me. So I don't know. The FBI must got this mixed up, right? That really doesn't speak for the FBI as inaccurate. I mean, I thought it was also funny that they write this thing in there. To be honest, I use this I stopped being angry about it. I use this for amusement. I read so much stupid shit about me so one of those researchers said, I was in the Panzer Grenadier, and I said in a German elite unit, and I said, okay, well, you Google Panzer Grenadier, they're all making, and here's the thing, people make this stuff up, and then it gets copied, and everybody gives it a new twist, so it's a pile of nonsense, basically. And as I said, I don't expect you to believe me, but I have no inside knowledge about the Oklahoma City bombing, and not of the activities of the Midwest bank robbers or ARA. I found out about the existence after I was back in Germany, and I said, okay, great, so my roommate is a bank robber, fantastic. So what else, But this was actually, for me that wasn't really shocking because bank robber is one thing, but I was supposed to have killed 160 innocent people, right? So compared to the Oklahoma City bombing, there was a much bigger issue for me than some guys robbing banks and playing revolutionaries, Well, to be honest, I think all they had on them is bank robbery. Right? They didn't commit any acts or whatever, and I wonder if they actually had plans to do anything. I'm wondering. So, But the thing, robbing banks is the dumbest thing you can do because in America you can get away with murder, you can get with child pornography and all kind of perverted shit. You mess with the monetary system, which is robbing banks, which are backed by the federal bank, or counterfeiting. Those are two things they will get you for. They have no sense of humor. The two things you should avoid when you're in America, messing with the monetary system. So robbing banks, not a good idea, as far as I'm concerned.
I won't disagree with you there, but I guess what Jesse Trentadue, he's dedicated like a good 25 years to fight the FBI pro bono in court. He was a successful lawyer with a happy family and everything. I just don't see a guy like that being full of shit. He's been very successful in his lawsuits. He's got a lot of documents. He's still fighting an ongoing case where the FBI threatened the whistleblower John Matthews, and now the court's investigating, witness tampering allegations. This is a big deal, and I don't think it's going anywhere, and I don't think he's full of shit. I think he's probably stumbling on the truth, which is why they don't want to give him records about anything. I think my ex-girlfriend, she talked to Jesse Trentadue, or was an exchange, or email, she was in exchange with this guy, definitely. And did she send your file to him?
No. I always thought she got it from him.
Okay, I'll have to ask him. If he...
Yeah. I don't know where she got it from, but one day I came to her flat and I said, hey, look at this big stack of paper. That's the FBI file. And after she was back and forth with Jesse Trentadue. And after she was getting that exchange with Jesse Trentadue, she had my file suddenly. So I don't know me to do. If you just go on the internet and click a button, send me the file or some stuff, or you can download it, or I have no idea. I didn't.
Would you still be willing to sign a privacy waiver so he could do a FOIA request?
I have to ask Kirk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, before I do anything, I ask my lawyer, is there a point or whatever. But I mean, I don't see it's necessary. What is if you can access my file, why don't you just sign anything?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any file on you that's publicly available. I know there's a couple 302s that mention your name, but apparently the Bureau's sitting on a lot of records that at least Jesse says they're not providing him. So, and he, like I said, he gave me this privacy waiver July 2006. Laid it all out to you to sign, saying, Andreas Karl Strassmeir declares as follows: I was born in Berlin, Germany. I was never a federal informant. I give Trenadu permission to obtain my records. Is the upshot of what this waiver says. So,
yeah, and how did you get this thing to me?
How did he get it to you? I assume through your girlfriend. He might have sent it for you to sign, or I don't know. This was 2006. I was still in high school.
Yeah, well, I don't recall signing anything, which doesn't mean I didn't do it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You didn't. He says you didn't sign it. If you signed it, he would have been able to get your file.
Yeah, but I've seen my file, so this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't recall getting this kind of thing to sign, but I recall seeing a big stack of paper, which is my FBI file, on my girlfriend's desk. So that's all I can say about this.
Okay.
So that's what I say. I told you, I'm a little bit suspicious about Trenadu because it doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe
you want to ask Kirk about this thing, how easy it is to obtain my FBI file and what to do,
All right,
He's a lawyer. He's an expert on this thing.
Yeah.
So for me, the whole thing sounds kind of funny.
Then,
I know that Trenadu tried to drag me into this whole thing, this Oklahoma thing. And that's, of course, he's not one of my buddies, to be honest. Because everybody who's trying to do this is, for me, I know that people are there for whatever reasons, and of course, I'm not sympathetic to those people. I can't,
No, I understand that. If somebody accused me of a crime, I would be very upset too. But I don't believe Jesse's malicious. I think he's genuine in his beliefs.
Yeah, but he might be misled. You might be tracing some phantoms or some stuff there. I mean, the thing is, with his brother, is suspicious, but of course, I understand that you want to find out, but I don't see how. I said the whole thing is, for me, is very strange, and the whole thing with his brother is strange too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much are you familiar with this case?
Familiar enough. I know it was said that his brother supposedly resembled Richard Lee Guthrie. And Jesse believes that the FBI murdered his brother because they thought he was one of the people involved in the bombing. And he definitely was murdered, that's for sure. He was murdered in federal prison, and it was a cover-up job there. And why are you going to murder somebody on a parole violation? I think it was probably interrogation gone wrong or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the established fact is that he was killed, basically beaten to death in prison by, that's what I think. He either broke his legs or some stuff, and he was severely mistreated and died. So this mistreatment.
Mm-hmm.
Now my question is, did the purpose murder him, or did he die on this mistreatment? And they didn't intend. That's always a thing. I mean, I don't have the details, but I know they're always known from history. There are always more than one option, right? Because if they kill you in prison, they hang you, right? You committed suicide. Like what's this guy here? The pedophile guy.
Epstein.
Epstein, yeah. They put an Epstein on you, right? Or you have a fellow inmate who is a lifer stab you for a pack of cigarettes, you know. So, I mean, they don't beat you to death and then, oh shit, there's a dead guy, and how we explain that, you know. If they want to murder you in prison, they have their ways to do this, trust me, you know. But they wouldn't. So for me, the whole thing looks. They were beating him up or trying to get a confession out of him for some reason, and he died on them, right? We're the same thing in East Germany. You know, from if you go from Berlin to the Federal Republic of Germany, you had to go through the East German territory. So you had to cross the border twice, right? And during the Cold War, we had a case. There was a West German citizen who was arrested by the East German police for a speeding thing. Mm-hmm. And he died during interrogation. He got, apparently they beat him up, and he got a heart attack because he had a heart condition. So yeah, it was a big thing. The Germans were very upset, and since they were financing the East Germans and giving them a lot of credits, the East Germans were very upset about this. That West German citizen died in their custody. That's always a bad thing, right? So, and for me, this killing of Turner's brother looks more like an accident. You know, not an accident. I mean, they did beat him up for whatever reason, and the guy happened to die also because they mistreated him too bad, right? Over there. But if you purposely murder a guy in prison, there are better ways. Trust me. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I guess it depends if they're trying to get information out of him.
Exactly. And that's probably the reason more.
This is like CIA-style torture that Kenneth Trenadu underwent. I mean, there's beatings on the bottom of the soles of his feet, like multiple slashes, just like beating would be an understatement with With
I mean, to be honest, it is really shocking, really odd, because I mean, it is really strange that if somebody does it and expects to get away with it, that's.
And again, like that's the thing. The suspicious part is the cover up. Nobody was.
Go ahead. That's not suspicious, because when you screw up, you have to cover up. I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah, but it went all the way up to like the Attorney General. I mean, there was what's his face.
Jan Reno at the time.
Yeah, but the guy who was Obama's Attorney General at the time made a list called the Trenadus and Trenadon'ts. I forget who was. He was involved in Operation Fast and Furious. I'm drawing a blank now, but I guess that's neither.
Well, I mean, it's very, very disturbing, very suspicious what happened to his brother, right? But I think he's coming to conclusions which, can't be confirmed, Well, why does Trenadu think that his brother was mistaken for Guthrie? I mean,
he was told that by J.D. Cash.
Oh, come on. Everything J.D. Cash, everything J.D. Cash says is absolute made-up shit. 100%. Trust me on that. Don't believe me. Look up his claims, compare it to any evidence. And that's, for me, a reason not to believe it. And J.D. Cash is purposely spreading misinformation. And anybody who's believing, J.D. Cash is full of shit, 100%. Carol Howe is full of shit, 100%. Anybody given credit or kind of quoting them, bad idea. So.
I guess we'll find out, because like I said, Trenadu has a lawsuit that's been litigated behind closed doors, but John Matthews has been deposed, and God willing, eventually those records are going to be unsealed, and we're going to see a lot more information about Pat Kahn and who knows what else.
Yeah, now my take on Pat Kahn, without having I heard about it like a day ago, right? Pat Kahn, for me, is one of those things that from FBI shit, They're trying to harass people. We're chasing up and didn't get anywhere with it. I mean, that sounds, do you familiar with a program called COINTELPRO?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So that was another thing, right? They had to pull it when Congress found out because it's illegal, right? They use all illegal. And see, I'm convinced that the FBI is still using those tactics. It's just the program has been officially canceled. But they're using the same tactics. And one tactic is to discredit people. And that's one of the reasons why an FBI agent went around in Oklahoma to the ranchers and telling them not to employ us. I mean, that's a fact. People told me that in my face. I said, look, I have the FBI standing here, and they told me all kind of shit. Are you bad guys? I shouldn't let you. And I said, I wonder how they found out about it. I said, okay, but it was a check, because we cashed your checks. And I said, what do you tell them? And he said, well, we told them to get the fuck out of here. I said, good, well done, So, I mean, I know they were doing this. That's not some hearsay. That's not some suspicion. That's a fact. People told me, and it's in my face, that the FBI was on their doorsteps, right, and trying to destroy our business. Why would they do a thing like this? That wasn't an investigation. They were going around and telling people not to employ us.
So would John... sorry to interrupt.
And that is COINTELPRO.
So would John Matthews be full of shit then? Because he's the one who said he saw you with McVeigh and San Saba. He was going to testify for Trenadu in his trial, and then the FBI threatened him from testifying. And then this is what's been investigated for the last 5 years behind closed doors. Why would the FBI threaten John Matthews if he's just a crackpot?
John Matthews? I don't know this guy. I know. But as I say, if he tells you he saw me with McVeigh, everybody, I know that countless people claiming have seen me with McVeigh. And everybody has been debunked, basically, right? And there's another one on the list. I don't know for what reason they're doing this. Don't ask me, but it's absolutely not true.
Okay, well...
You probably had, what name was, Katina Lawson, or what her name was? Then you had this pimp and the stripper and the lady good diver. It's all the same bullshit. And I'm convinced, first of all, they've never seen me together with McVeigh because I've never been with this guy, right? And second, I'm 99% sure that they've never seen McVeigh either. They make this shit up. Don't ask me why. I can get into the people's head. Don't ask me why other people are doing things. So. But, if he tells you that he saw me, he's full of shit, to be honest. He's simply lying. And I don't know for what reason, but Grady Cash, I think, was paid to spread misinformation. And sometimes my girlfriend was an investigative journalist for the BBC. And she's like, well, I heard blah, blah, blah. And I said, let me guess. Grady Cash, he said, yeah, how do you know that? Yeah, well. Every ridiculous bullshit story about me usually originates with Grady Cash. And he came up with a different... People have said, Kurt called me one and said, well, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. I said, oh, what? Why your dad? He passed away, didn't he? I said, no, I just talked to my dad a minute ago. He was quite well. And I found out that Grady Cash, back then my father was still alive, Grady Cash was writing in his weekly bullshit paper that I would get extradited now to the United States because my father died and now I have no more protection from the law in Germany. He made it up that my father died, and people say, sending me letters of condolence, stuff like this. I said, no, my father's alive. That's Grady Cash, right?
Well, that's pretty disgusting. But, forget about Matthews saying that he saw you with McVeigh. I guess my point is that you're talking about, Pat Con was a intelligence operation that never found anything damning, but Matthews was a informant who worked in Pat Con. That's 100% confirmed. And he talked about a lot of stuff, like the undercover FBI agents getting people to convert guns from semi-automatic to automatic, a plot to attack a nuclear plant, a lot of that supposed raid on the compound in Tennessee, He makes it seem like Pat Kahn was a much larger and deeper operation.
Yeah, I mean, if he was involved, and so I can't comment on that. I just tell you what I read on this article and my personal impression. And I don't know, I do know how agencies work. You have to produce results. Right? That's it. I mean, it's federal money you're burning, and they want to see results. There's a hierarchy going from the FBI, head of the FBI, up to the, I don't know, who's the guy who is in charge of Treasury, I don't know, the secretary or whatever, whoever, it goes right to the very top. And there are oversight committees who are looking at, they want to know about how much money you spend on what and stuff like this. It's pretty complicated, but there is, you can't just, the FBI cannot just say, okay, we're going to harass some people because, we don't like them and do this for 20 years and burning up tax money, and, well, unfortunately, we didn't find anything. And I think there I have a problem because the Fort Smith trials, I mean, they got creamed over there as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, and Kirk, who was a defense lawyer, I talked to him. He said, "No," and that's how Kirk got involved with right wing. He wasn't involved at all. And one day, did he tell you the story?
No, I don't think so.
No, he was working for a law firm. He just got finished his exam and stuff. He was working for a law firm as a lawyer when he got approached by Louis Beam, and Louis Beam got him out of the phone book because he didn't trust any of the established lawyers, right? Because he saw they're all Jewish or whatever. And he asked Kirk to take up his case. And Kirk was naive enough to say, yes, okay. And so his law firm fired him, right, for taking on Louis Beam. And he was one of them. And then he said, the FBI didn't have a case. And the judge said, he said the quote, the judge said, nobody, to the jury, in my courtroom, nobody was getting convicted for what he says or what he thinks. And then the FBI was they didn't have a case. And he said, I didn't win the case. The FBI lost it because I didn't have a case to start with. They dragged those guys into court for voicing unpopular beliefs. That's all there was. His addiction was kind of a joke. Now, after that, he was a hero for the right-wingers, and he was getting more customers out of that scene. That's how it happened. He said, well, undeserved, because any unexperienced lawyer could have, solved this case, but that's how he got his clientele, right? So you never heard the story from him?
No, I never heard that. I've talked to him about how he became involved in Waco.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I knew quite. I was seeing him a lot when I was, and he was taking on colored, black and Hispanic clients and stuff like this, or Vietnamese people like you can ask him about it. I think his most famous client was Commander Data from Star Trek, Brent Spiner.
What? Are you kidding me? I did not know that.
Yeah, ask him about it. I think he told me that. Yeah.
Oh.
He hired him. And Brent Spiner is Jewish, right? So, so he hired Kirk Lyons on some case.
Hilarious.
I think it was So they want to make him out, Kirk, some neo-Nazi guy. Of course he was defending right-wing guys, and during Kirk, I met a lot of his clients or people, and stuff. And it was very interesting for me because how would you ever meet people like this, right? And I tell you, there's some really nutcases among those clients. He basically refused clients as well, right? And so for me it was very interesting to find out about those people. That's a world which most people never ever have access to, right?
Yeah.
And I said there were quite a few creatures around there, right? But the thing is, since I knew about those people, I knew the facts behind it, then I was reading about them, I had a good laugh, They all talk about Tom Metzger, or how dangerous people are. Well, those are like 3-guy organizations, a guy with a typewriter, spreading his ideas. Well, they're not a danger. Not for me,
they'd be guys getting banned from the internet these days, I guess, though. Can I ask you, did you have any suspicions about Lois Beam? I mean, he was the guy who created the whole notion of leaderless resistance and things like that. It seems he was kind of a militant, anti-government.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think he ever acted on his rhetoric?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so. No, I think what happened with Louis Beam is, he's a decorated Vietnam veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And he returned to America, and he was spat at and thrown with dirt and called a baby killer and stuff like this. And he felt let down by the government. After being in Vietnam, he got sprayed with Agent Orange and all kinds of stuff. And and that when something cracked in him. That's when he was getting this really anti-government. And of course, he was one of the guys, all the Jews are behind us, and Zionist occupied government, all this right-wing rhetoric. And so he became a computer specialist somehow. I think he was on the run from the law and had to spend somewhere out here, and he used the time becoming a computer expert. Then he tried to use this, and he was publishing and holding speeches, but has he done anything? I would say no.
Now, do you know how the hell Dave Holloway managed to get his wife out of Mexican prison?
Yes, I do.
How does
I
that?
need to talk with Holloway about that.
I've asked Kirk to talk to Holloway, but I don't know if he wants to talk to me. He's
Holloway loves to talk to people.
Well, he's holding a security clearance, so I don't know if he doesn't want to lose that or what. But.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, there's one more reason not to talk about it.
Yeah, but how do you know? What's the story then?
Yeah, I'm not willing to tell you the story because he told me, and it's kind of a trust thing. If you tell me something which is confidential, I'm not going around and tell the next person about it. So you have to understand that I'm not telling the story how he got Sheila Beam out. So
okay, I understand. That's credit to you for being loyal to a friend, but you could see why I'd want to know this guy who says he worked for the CIA in the 80s and now he's part of this right-wing militia movement, springing people from prison. I mean, he sounds like a Fed.
Okay, here's the thing. I know Holloway quite well. I mean, and he was not really a member of a movement or anything, right? I mean, I don't think he was, right? He couldn't, he was involved in, I know he got Sheila Beam out of prison. That's a fact.
When you say, but he was part of the TLI. I think he was like a founding member, right? When you say
he wasn't. No.
Okay.
Now, see, here's the thing. The TLI they had no membership. They had no members. There was never a roster or anything. They didn't sign in or give you a name or anything. They were just a bunch of guys who met and who fired their guns. And Holloway was just there on occasion, right? And I think I went with him once there, and I went there with other guys there. So, and the funny thing is, I don't know the whole story, but you might want to look this up because I can only give you that. At some point, the leaders of the TLI were charged with something. They were in court. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you might want to ask Kirk about it. He might be able to tell you. Well, what the story is that the Texas Light Infantry, the leaders, I think that was Neil, he's a banker, right? And other members of so-called members were charged with some stuff, with basically being a racist organization, discrimination or some bullshit. And they had a black lawyer who was the second in command of the Texas Light Infantry.
Oh, really? A black guy was the second in command of TLI?
Yeah. That's a story. You ask Kirk about it because I found it awful funny. And apparently they were all sitting in court, and then the black guy walks in, And the doctor said, okay, so who are you? I said, well, I'm the defense counsel. And he said, you know what this trial is about? You know who your clients are? I said, of course, yeah, they're my men. You know, I'm the second in command of this organization. And that's what the end of the trial. The FBI kind of, they almost puked, you know. They sat there with real dumb faces. You know? The judge looked at the jury and the FBI and the prosecution and said, interesting. So apparently they don't exclude black people from the organization. You know?
Oh, very interesting.
I mean, that's a story. I mean, it's not, you know, I don't know who told me this thing, but that's might be an anecdote, but there might be some stuff that if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you might ask Kirk about it, you know.
Okay.
Do you know anything do you know any people from the TLI, if they're still around, or still alive? That's always the thing.
Other than Dave Holloway, and that's pretty much all I know. I know Tom Posey died, I think, 10 years ago. I'm not familiar with how many of those guys are still kicking.
See, that's a problem, you know. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, the guy, I can tell you, I know his first name. The guy is Neil, who was the commander.
Oh, Neil Payne. Neil Payne.
No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Kirk's brother-in-law.
Yeah, no. Another guy was named Neil.
Okay.
He was a commander of that. And I only know his first name because we went on first name basis there, right? And that's the only name I do remember, actually, you know. So, and I remember there was a Hispanic guy there, and there was a Chinese guy there, you know. So they didn't seem to be too racist in my eyes, right?
Yeah. While you were talking about that, you jogged my memory. I think John Matthews was introduced to the right-wing so-called extremist groups through Tom Posey. They were both part of that civilian material assistance that was involved in Iran-Contra. And I think maybe Posey might have introduced Matthews to TLI and the rest of those people, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, but to be honest, my assessment, TLI are good boys, you know, or patriots, militia guys didn't, you know, that's decided to, well, you know, it's a duty as American, as Texans, to defend the state of Texas against all enemies, and, you know, well, have a weekend, you know, with shooting, a little bit patrol, and then have some beers and some barbecues, and I would consider them like harmless. Definitely not people who would involve, you know, any anti-government activities. Well, they weren't anti-government, you know. As I said, they were pro-Texas, and the thing is, basically, they were worried about, you know, that they wanted to defend the Constitution, and the Patriot movement was very, very, diverse. You know, there were you had people who were just concerned people, right, who thought that the government might eradicate their civil rights and want to protect the Constitution, and on the other hand, you had like radical people, right?
So the talks about them, there was an alleged plot to kill an FBI agent. Was that just guys getting drunk around the campfire?
Who tried to kill an FBI agent?
I think that's why PatCon was launched, and ostensibly why PatCon was launched in the first place. There was talks about among TLI people about killing an FBI agent named Jack Knox. And the investigators realized that they don't really have any solid plans to do that. Well,
they didn't say anything of that when I was around, but you know, I might have been like 3 or 4 times. And the thing is, you know, I mean, you should always be careful what you say. But sometimes people get drunk and there's some rhetoric and some stuff, you know, and yeah, and you have to see, well, do they have the capabilities? Are there specific plans? You know, so I wouldn't give, you know. First of all, they see sometimes they might the FBI. I know the FBI is making shit up as well. Maybe they had some guys who told an informant who told them that, you know, so they can launch an operation. I mean, you never know. I mean, I do not trust the FBI at all. Right, so.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, I don't know if you followed that so-called plot to kidnap Michigan's governor from a couple years ago, but it sounds like the exact same thing where just guys getting drunk, talking shit about the FBI, and a couple informants are recording them. Before you know it, the FBI's building the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the thing is, never talk about this kind of stuff, right? That's the thing. But, I know that Kirk can tell you a lot of cases where innocent people got framed by the FBI. And Kirk even thinks, I don't know if he told you, he thinks that Dennis Meehan got framed as well. With this, he's in prison because he sent a pipe bomb, allegedly.
Yeah, and in that case, there was another blonde bombshell who cozied up to him, another Carol Howe, it seemed like. I don't know if you read about that case that much.
No, not at all. Kirk told me that he talked to his defense lawyer, who was a court-appointed lawyer, some older lady, and she is convinced that her client was framed, that he is innocent. And she is in no way connected to the move or anything, right? She was a court-appointed lawyer. And she thinks that Dennis Meehan is innocent. And I was really surprised when I heard. I think John Ronson told me that Meehan got locked up. I said, that's unusual because I would consider him guy harmless. He's just a talker. And Kirk is convinced that he was talking shit, and that's what got him locked up. Which, yeah.
I'll have to talk to Kirk about that. I'd be willing to write about that if you've got a court-appointed attorney that thinks he's innocent. I mean, that's...
Probably knows. He was in touch with her, so he probably can tell you who she is, and you can ask her. I mean, if you're interested in this kind of stuff.
I am. I definitely am. The last guy I wanted to ask you about is Roger Moore. Did you ever have any dealings with him?
Not that I know of, but I said, you run into people in gun shows, you get somebody introduce you to, this is so-and-so, hey, shake hands, and next 5 minutes later you have forgot the name, or if you ever met those guys, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think I did, but if somebody comes up, oh yeah, this and this at this gun show, so-and-so introduced you to him, and you shook his hand, and you talked to 2 minutes with this guy. It's, but I said not to my knowledge. Who was this Moore guy anyway? I think I read about this guy, something.
He was the guy who was McVeigh's so-called business partner. They traveled on the gun show circuit together.
Oh, maybe I've seen him then.
Yeah. At the Tulsa, he would have been at that Tulsa gun show where you ran into McVeigh.
Then I might have saw him because there was a stall next to McVeigh. And there was a guy, I never got introduced to him, but I said I want to try to sell the knives to McVeigh. He said, no, he has no use for it. And he went to his neighbor and said, hey, you have any use for this? And he just shook his head and said, no, fuck off, So, so that might have been, the guy who, if he was with him at the Tulsa gun show, as I said, they had neighboring stores. So it might have been the guy. So I have seen him, but I never exchanged a word with this guy. So.
Okay, just curious, because he's actually...
He came across like... I didn't want to. He came across like some asshole, I had this immediate thing that he's the guy's a jerk for some reason. Well... I don't know how,
I view Roger Moore as kind of the smoking gun of this whole case, far beyond you, because it turns out that Moore built boats for the CIA in like the late 70s and the 80s, and he was involved in Iran-Contra too, so another CIA guy. And he's the one that McVeigh supposedly robbed him to get like $50,000 and some gold bars and some guns to help carry out the attack. But I think it was a fake robbery. I think Moore was a CIA asset that was encouraging McVeigh all along. And I could send you an article about that if you're interested, but he's the guy that I think is the real provocateur.
Yeah. I mean, of course I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that there was a John Doe number 2, right? I mean, I think that's the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's also the reason why those guys, they have two versions. A, they say, okay, for mainstream Americans, McVeigh did it by himself. We execute him, case closed, everything is fine, the world is okay. But of course, there are people who ask questions, like Kathy Wilburn and her daughter, and people say, hey, well, something doesn't add up here. Now they prepared a different story. And I think that's how I came in the picture. But I think at some point they decided not to, from the official side, that they're not to pursue this because I wasn't a good scapegoat, because of my background, kind of, They saw some stupid neo-Nazi skinhead, that would be a nice guy to frame, but then they figured, this guy is not, and I said, it didn't work out because people accusing me of being a government agent, stuff like this. That's exactly the story the FBI did not want to be told,
Was your family ever harassed over these allegations against you? Because I got to imagine, being accused of being a Nazi in Germany is like almost a death sentence. I mean, that's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that for your family, because nobody deserves that.
It wasn't easy. I mean, my father was retired, so his career was basically over, so it didn't hurt him too much, but my brother was in politics. He was a city councilman, and they try to use it on him and stuff like this. My other brother is a businessman, and they were kind of harassing him and stuff like this. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah. You mentioned you have a night job. What are you doing these days beyond the freelance writing and painting figurines? Is that
freelance writing? That's basically what I'm doing research. But I'm basically a night worker. That's just why I have an unhealthy schedule. That during the day I do stuff that needs to be done during office hours, and when I have my piece, and I start working on my books and stuff like this. I've always been a night person, kind of, except if I had day jobs or not. But so that's why it's okay to talk to me at that time of the day. So.
Got it. Working on anything interesting right now?
Yeah, always.
Are we ever going to see Andy Strassmeir's memoirs?
Probably not. No, probably not.
You got the 30th anniversary is coming up. You can make a boatload of money.
Yeah, but the thing, I like to keep private things private. I don't want to spill my gut on other people and get other people involved, and so I have to change names, I guess, if I do this, and I don't know.
Well.
The thing I know about people who are my friends, and I don't like to write about stuff which is private, right? Or Elohim City, whatever I'm dealing with them, I know I'm not the type of guy who's just bad talking people after being friends with them, and so I have to polish it up, which wouldn't be the full truth, or leave things out. I don't feel comfortable with this.
No.
But hey, I might think about it. Maybe somebody else can write it for me,
Well, if you ever want to talk to me about Vince Petruski and stuff
no,
like
I don't.
All right. Well, I appreciate you indulging me. I'm just going to probably write a story saying, Strassmeir disagrees with the show. He's not sure if he's going to sue. The story, if not tomorrow, then probably early next week we'll publish something, and I'll send you the link. And in the meantime, I'll send you a couple of the links that I had referenced, like Danny Coulson talking about McVeigh, Pete Langen's affidavit, or anything else, and I'll see what Jesse trying to do, what the deal is.
Yeah, well, be careful if you write about me wanting to suing. You have to word this properly. That say he's consulting a lawyer. If he has a case of a law, be really careful. I don't want this rumor spread. that I'm planning to sue, and then nothing happens. That's what I'm saying.
So how exactly would you characterize it? You're discussing with Kirk about the possibility, or what?
Don't mention Kirk. Say he has consulted a lawyer, and he's trying to find out if they have like a case, if there's a possibility of a lawsuit or some stuff. He's kind of I don't know, and whatever. I mean, you probably find the right way to word that. Be very iffy.
You said don't mention Kirk, but can I get a comment from Kirk? Is he's you?
But don't mention. See, I'm not sure. See, the thing is, that's between you and me, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you take an on-show time, Kirk can't do that. He doesn't have the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an expert on the case. He has all the files. He has all the information. So he had to work with a bigger law firm.
Well, if you guys want to draft a letter to Showtime demanding, I don't know, they can't retract it now, but you could at least write a preliminary letter, and if you do that, I'd be happy to give that more publicity.
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, I don't know if there's anything in Germany. We have a Rundfunkrat. So if they publish some bullshit on a TV or a radio about you, you can write a letter of complaint to them and complain about those things. I don't know if there's anything like this in the United States, but I mean, I could. I have to talk to. We just write a letter to those guys and say, hey, it's a bunch of lies, and apparently you fell for some fairy tales told by Carol Hauer and some stuff, and that's completely untrue, and it's slanderous and blah blah blah. I don't know if that makes sense. I have to ask Kirk, and he might have to consult some other guys as well. Some people who are see Kirk. I don't think Kirk is special in liability suits.
Yeah, I know that's the case in journalism. If you make a mistake and you libel somebody, they're going to write you first and demand a correction before they would move forward with a lawsuit. But yeah, I have no idea how it works in the entertainment business. But in any event.
But to be honest, the thing is, normally when some idiot on the internet spreads some bullshit, I didn't react. But if they're making a movie about it, and but I have to find out from an expert because I'm pretty sure they had legal counsel before they made this show, right?
Sure.
Now, Reverend Ballard is dead. He can't sue, But, and they didn't mention my name. Maybe they thought they get away with it, which I don't think they should, because it's obvious it's my person,
Yeah.
So that's what if they would call them, Jim Brown or something like that, and then they say, oh, well, it's a fictional character we inserted in this thing. But they're using my name, which I'm known under this name to the in the media and the press and so called. So it's definitely my person, So
yeah, they couldn't even call him Andy the Austrian or anything like that. They had to
exactly. I think they're pretty much, and I think because I haven't done anything in the last 30 years, or maybe they think I am actually involved and don't dare to put it on. But hey, it's. Yeah, I have Carol Hauer on the witness stand, under oath again.
Mm-hmm.
Have if she's make no doubt. The whole thing I think, is based on Carol Hauer.
Yeah,
I mean, as I said, she was running away from the dog. She couldn't run. She could barely walk. She had broken ankles and stuff like this, And I know Carol Hauer. She always wanted to be a hero, and she was trying to sell the story. For quite a while, I heard about that. There is a guy who looked into this thing a little bit, into Carol Hauer, and his name is Darius James. He is an author. He's a former founding member of the Black Panthers, actually. He's a good friend of mine. And he helped to debunk a lot of this Carol Hauer bullshit, and was always, he is well informed about what's happening there, and also. And he told me that she's trying to get her story, selling her rights to a film company and stuff like this. Maybe you want to contact him.
Okay, yeah, I'll consider that. I know the Waco portion of the show is based off of Gary Nestler's book, The FBI Hostage Negotiator, and I think David Thibodeau wrote a book too, one of the survivors. But yeah, they don't explicitly say where they're getting their OKC stuff, because I mean, they implicate Elohim City, but they don't implicate John Doe 2. John Doe 2 is not in the show. They show McVeigh driving the Ryder truck and getting out by himself, which doesn't make any... Yeah.
Well, maybe they're part of the cover-up. You never know.
I guess.
I mean, but I think the whole thing looks very much like Carol Howard's fantasies, Well, I mean, how would they get idea that we threw it in a pit with attack dogs and all this shit? I mean, where would they get this idea?
I didn't even know Carol Howell's still off the grid. John Ronson, I don't think could find her. I wonder where she even is.
She lives under a new name now.
Yep.
But shouldn't be too difficult to find out.
Well, I sure would like to talk to her if I ever got the chance.
Yeah, but be warned. I mean, everything coming out of our mouths is probably a lie, so.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, some people, now she's a blonde girl, well, not girl anymore, I guess. She pretty much have aged too. She was a blonde girl with big tits and big eyes, and she was telling, I'm just a little girl, I'm innocent. Well, she convinced the jury at her trial, right? And she was making up really stupid stuff at her trial. She claimed that I gave her a swastika armband, Well, where would I get a swastika armband from? And the thing is, a picture of her with Dennis Mehan, where she's wearing like some SS uniform with a swastika armband. And the thing is, I met her after she split up with Mehan, and she filed a restraining order against Dennis Mehan. So how comes that she's wearing my armband before she met me? So it's all kind of little details. But there's no. Why would she make this up? There's no reason. But she can't help it. She is a liar. She just. I mean, she was telling us all kind of stuff that she told us, that she was adopted. Well, then Dennis Mehan showed me a picture of her mother, and she said, "Well, spitting image, She wasn't adopted. She made this stuff up, right? She is just. I don't know, and I think she convinces herself that she might come across convincing. And I bet she could probably beat a lie detector as well. I mean, there's definitely something wrong with this woman, right? But if you talk to her and get your own impression about her.
I'm sure a lot of people are trying to see where she is these days.
Yeah, but why is she hiding? I'm not hiding. I'm under fire here. So if she does everything right, why is she hiding? I mean, why does she live under a new name? I don't. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, I'll maybe have a talk with Kirk, see if you guys want to write a letter to Showtime, and we'll see if we can go from there.
Yeah. As I said, you want to contact Darius James, let me know. I give him a warning because he is always suspicious with, if he gets approached by journalists.
Darius James. Okay, I'll look that name.
Darius.
Yeah.
Like Darius James, like the Persian king.
Okay.
Darius. Now, he is an author. He wrote Negrophobia and Blaxploitation, two well-known books he wrote in his own name.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. I see that. An Urban Parable. Okay.
Yeah, he's a real cool guy. I mean, he's a real character. He's absolutely, he's a level head. I mean, he has a really good bullshit detector. He really knows when something is bollocks. And so he's pretty good. And he's a guy always sticking up for me. Some people make up shit about me. He always steps in and says, "Hey, hang on," So, see, we were neighbors here in Berlin for quite a while, and he knows me very well. So.
Oh, really? Okay. The founder of the Black Panthers have ended up in Germany?
I mean, not a founder. I mean, he was one of the actual members back then.
Okay,
right?
got it,
They were
got
founded
it.
in the 70s.
One of the originals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he is a self-proclaimed communist, so it's cool. But he's so level-headed. And we had endless talks and stuff like this, and we were sitting there having some drinks, and we were talking for hours and hours, and I learned a lot. He told me all thing about slavery. The first slaves in America were white slaves, and all the truth about the slave trade. And he had so much information, and he recommended books to me. Say, hey, you should read this and this. So it was really interesting, And for me, he's the only black person I got really close with. I knew some black guys and kind of buddies, but he's I only have very few close friends, and he's one of them. And so I got a lot of insights, and for me it's interesting to see his perspective of things, because it's different,
For sure. Well, you certainly had an interesting life of your own.
Who did? He did?
Oh, I said you also have had an interesting life, one way or the other.
Yeah, and he was a very few people I could talk about things. You could talk about race and racism and all the stuff without working in eggshells, right?
Yeah.
So he was pretty blunt. The thing is, a lot of people don't like him because he's very blunt and offensive. So he's kind of a little bit of a bad boy, and he's telling people that they're full of shit in their face. So he's a type of guy, but he's really cool, and he's an honest guy, and he is so level-headed, and that's what I like about him. And I said he's an absolute bullshit detector. He knows pretty quick when something is nonsense. And I said he is one of the few people who knows me personally quite well. I would use him as a character witness because we spent so much time together. And I really sad that he moved back to America a couple of years ago. So, no, yeah, we were neighbors. He lived in the same house.
Oh wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I was introduced because his girlfriend and my girlfriend kind of met or stuff. We were neighbors, and he started talking to my girlfriend, who was living in the same house at this time. And she said, and she warned him about me. She said, my boyfriend, he has a little bit of an issue with black people. And so he asked her, I said, well, did your boyfriend live in America? She said, yes. And he said, well, then he has all reason to have issues with black people, probably.
Oh, God.
That was a straight answer, Yeah, so she told me that. I was really surprised with this answer. And say, yeah, if people try to rob you and all this kind of stuff, you don't fancy those people too much, so.
Yeah, but
that doesn't mean you're racist or anything. That's just the way it is. So
sure.
No, he is a really cool guy, and yeah. And he did suggest to me to write a biography and stuff like this, But I said, I don't. Yeah. Yeah, everything, everywhere else is cashing in on it. But I don't know if anybody would read this book. I don't know.
Oh, I could guarantee you there would be some interest. I'd read it for one.
Yeah, if I think about it, if it wouldn't be me but somebody else, it would sound kind of like interesting, Yeah, it's quite. It is a kind of unusual story, My connection to Israel, then the United States, then my little episode in Ireland and stuff like this. I think it was quite interesting actually, But I don't want to piss off any people. That's the point, not people who I had dealings with. That's my main concern, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to step any on. So that's the big thing here, that I might step on people's toes when I write about it. And I said, I write about ancient history, and it has to be accurate, and it has to be proven facts and stuff like this. So I wouldn't just write a book to make money and write some bullshit. I know a lot of people write bullshit things, they're kind of. I don't know if you're familiar with what's the sniper guy who they made a film about.
Oh, Chris Kyle.
Chris Kyle, yeah. What's your take on him?
I don't really have a take. I'm not too familiar. I think he was like a psychopath, but I never heard anything to suggest that his exploits in Iraq were fake or anything. I thought he was a legitimate killer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But
I think he's a bullshitter as well, despite the fact that he probably is a successful sniper.
yeah, I know there was a lawsuit between him and Jesse Ventura, and
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm 100% with Jesse Ventura on this thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had a case, and I saw interviews with this guy, and I had this really, my bullshit went on right away, I mean, there are people who bullshitters who never served a day in the military make up war hero stories, but then there are people who are genuine, been in the military and did things and did perform, but are still making up stories, right? And to be honest, his claim that he was when Katrina, he was sitting on the stadium and taking shots at looters. Oh, imagine a sniper sitting there on the rooftop and shooting black looters. Wouldn't that raise some stink somewhere? I mean, or the thing in Texas where he killed 2 carjackers. People checked up on this. Well, there was no thing like this happening at this time. So a lot of the stories didn't prove to be right, So. And I talked to another sniper about him, and he said, "Yeah, that's bollocks." And I think the film isn't. I'm a big fan of Clint Eastwood, but I think that film was shit. Basically portraying him. And I think the guy had a problem. I think he liked to kill people. That's my guess, right? And I think because he had such a high body count, because he was blowing everything away that moved, that came in front of his sights, And now they're making him kind of a hero. That's my suspicion. That's just by listening to him and looking, because a lot of snipers, they don't like to talk about this shit. They do their job, and like Howard Hascock, other people, they don't like to, And you probably heard of Andy McNabb. You hear about this guy?
No.
That's probably even also made with a film called I think it's even called Arrow 20. With Sean Bean. It was this SAS guys who got captured in Iraq, and this kind of mission there that failed. And he wrote a book about it, and then the family of one of the guys who died sued him, and they sent an investigator, and his whole book was bullshit, basically, right? I mean, in the film, there are those 5 guys who are fighting whole Iraqi platoons and defeating them, getting gunfights, and nothing of this happened. They were frozen, half frozen to death, and were picked up by some Iraqi patrol. They couldn't even resist. They couldn't even fire their guns because they were half frozen. So I said there are a lot of people out there who write books, and they're bullshit, and they're bestsellers, right? But I don't want to be like that. So I would like the money, but I'm not selling my soul. So.
Yeah, I think somebody who did sell his soul was Jeffrey Toobin. He just published a book about Oklahoma City. The guy who got caught publicly masturbating on a Zoom call with his CNN colleagues. Do you know Jeffrey Toobin?
No idea.
Okay, this is like a big scandal in America in 2020. For some reason, he was masturbating on a live Zoom call in front of his work colleagues. He's a journalist, and he's made his comeback by publishing a book that compares McVeigh to the people who did January 6th, and it's terrible. You're mentioned a couple times, but he doesn't go into any conspiracies or anything. He just says that any conservative is a potential McVeigh, his basic thesis. So. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, the problem is, and this is swapping over to Germany, this culture in America, which is, that the truth doesn't matter anymore. The narrative is more important. And I think that's what the thing is with this so-called. This Waco film, is that supposed to be documentary or docu-drama or dramatization? What's it labeled at?
I think they call it, a docu-series or something. Dramatized.
Really?
A dramatized, I don't
Yeah. That's interesting. If it's a dramatized documentary or something I get away with other claims that were based on true events. They basically can, based on true events, basically they can make up everything, right? But you probably heard about the big stink with the Netflix Cleopatra documentary that's going on right now. I don't know if you follow that up.
Oh, they made her into a black lady or something?
Yeah. Now, of course, I follow that because that's my job. I mean, I'm a specialist in archaeological reconstruction. That's my base. That's my specialty, right? So I follow that up, and also was hilarious. The whole thing, I was blew up in their face, basically,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's it. They have no shame, and you see, that's the thing. That it's called a documentary, and it's all. I mean, that she is black is only one of the minor mistakes they made in there, right? But it's complete. I mean, I don't know the details, but it's funny that people are actually catching up. And I said, "Wow, that's interesting." Also, the film "The Woman King," that suddenly they're getting backlash for this shit, because people realize that movie and entertainment industry does basically change the truth, changing history. And I think that's a very that's a good trend. I think. People are not bullshitted anymore. So I have some hope that this whole Waco thing might, people might react on that and say, hey, hang on, this is not really what happened. So I don't know.
Well,
Somebody blow the whistle on those guys and expose them. That would be nice, because they deserve it.
Well, if you threaten to sue them or write a letter about it, I guess that would go a long way towards that end, or it might go a long way.
Yeah, I think it might just end in the bin basket there, right? Yeah, so so I don't know. Is this all? Is this series over now, or is it still running, or? Is there any more coming, or what?
It's over. It was a 5-episode kind of mini series, and it ends. Timothy.
So what was the result? What was the end of the whole story? Was it Carol Howe escaping death, and that's it, or what?
Yeah, Carol Howe escapes death. She warns the FBI, but the FBI ignores her warnings, and McVeigh successfully carries out the attack, and then it pretty much fades to black. And then I think there's a quote from Merrick Garland, who is the current Attorney General and helped prosecute McVeigh back in the day. And, the threat of right-wing terrorism is still a problem. That's the message at the end.
Yeah, sure. There's a narrative.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck about the facts, the narrative?
I guess.
But they didn't come to a conclusion who was else involved. Did they explain how much they refer because I only have seen those little clips. It's Andy the German suggests to McVeigh that he can't help him, but he can fix him up with somebody. So who is this other guy he's referring to?
That was Terry Nichols. He's pretty much saying it can't be anybody at Elohim City. You got to go find one of your own people, I think is what Andy the German was saying in that scene.
But did I fix him up with somebody, or
no.
To him, or what's the deal there?
No, I think McVeigh, obviously, I don't know if the show depicts them as army buddies, but McVeigh was at Terry Nichols' house. They saw the Waco massacre happening, and that's when they agreed between themselves. And that's a scene in the show.
Sorry, but I still don't know what. I think why that McVeigh's bomb was made in my trailer and stuff like that. What's the connection there? I hope sue them and have them explain themselves. I don't know what to tell you. No. I said I'm missing parts here. Because I tell McVeigh, sorry, I can't be involved. You find somebody else. And the next scene is I'm making bombs, or he made it, or I'm making his bomb already. I mean, what's the connection there?
I think the suggestion is that you help them design the bomb or something, but they don't explicitly lay that out. It's innuendo.
So as Carol Howell goes in there, finds Nazi literature and bombs and stuff like, and some letter which apparently had some significance, which I didn't catch. I think she read some things she found in a book, some.
Yeah, supposedly a list of ingredients. I think if you zoom in, if you freeze and zoom in, you can see different ingredients for the bomb. One thing the show did depict that was accurate, and again kind of implicates Elohim City, is the whole notion that Richard Wayne Snell was going to be executed on April 19th, 1995, and Robert Millar was his spiritual caregiver, and Richard Wayne Snell knew the bombing was going to happen, and which suggests that he knew that some of his Nazi buddies were involved.
Yeah, well, there's no evidence for that.
But there is evidence that Richard Wayne Snell knew it was going to happen.
No.
I think there was people, this jail guards talked about that.
Okay. Not trust me, I'm pretty sure he didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. When did the jail guard report this? Before or after the bombing?
Well, the bombing happened within an hour of, he was going to be executed that morning. He asked them to put on CNN, and then when the bombing happens, he's like, hey, see, I told you so. Died a happy man.
Yeah, maybe he did see it. Maybe he was happy about it, but that doesn't mean he knew anything about it.
Yeah, no, that's just another interesting scene from the show.
Yeah. But you see, that's not new. I mean, I heard that back then. And here's the thing that I said that he did this out of revenge for his execution. That was a story, right? That when Snell is behind it, and he had somebody hired to do this.
It's a possible motive.
Yeah, right. Now here's the thing. I know because I was around when it happened. Until the very, I don't know, did he get the injection or I don't know how did the I think injection, didn't he? Lethal injection?
I think so.
Yeah. Until the very moment he filed for clemency, until the last moment, he was expecting or hoping that he gets clemency from the governor. Now, you don't plan a bombing if you want to get clemency, right?
No.
I don't think anybody reported that to you, but I know that.
Well, I don't think he was involved in the plan. I think he was just knowledgeable because maybe his Nazi buddies were visiting him in prison. Maybe it was Pappy Millar or Poppy, or I don't know what they call him in the show.
Grandpa, actually, was really that's what they call
Grandpa.
They call him different in the show.
Yeah, they call him Pappy in the show, Pappy Millar.
Pappy Millar, okay. No, they call him Grandpa, actually. Yeah, he was Grandpa to a lot of people there, actually. Yeah. That was his title, Grandpa. No, I mean, but the thing is, as I said, those people in Elohim City, it wasn't their thing, they weren't involved in any conspiracies or any bombing, or they want to be left alone, right? And the last thing you do is get involved in any bullshit, right? And their problem was because they let everybody come in there and visit because they were kind of the Christian hospitality. That they kind of got dragged in because people were holding and said, "Oh, look, all those guys coming to your place." I hear it in Germany as well. I'm a member of the left-wing party, and I joined a while ago, and I had to answer a lot of questions to the comrades that said, "Hey, Elohim City," and that's why I explained that. Look, they weren't Nazis, they weren't right-wingers. But they had right-wingers visiting. I said, yes, they did. but it doesn't mean anything. They had like left-wingers and religious freaks and Jesus freaks visiting there as well. They had Mexicans visiting, they had Indians visiting, they visited black churches. I mean, those, I tried, but it's really hard to get out of people's heads, because I figured that 30 years of propaganda and brainwash did have an effect on people. When I always get, whatever you might think about Elam City and whatever dealings I had with, and I didn't, I had a falling out with Reverend Millar over the Ellison thing. It's still unfair to paint them in with this brush, right? Because I know they weren't right-wing guys. But the promise is to explain to political people, religious people, that there's no, that they live in a different, people basically live in a different world, a different universe. And on the other hand, it's difficult to explain religious people about FBI and conspiracies and stuff like this, and how they work. So, have you got, Kirk sent me some stuff, some writings of Reverend Millar, which I never seen before. Did you get those as well?
No, not writings from Millar. I don't think so.
I either ask him about it. For some reason he sent it to me. I don't feel free to share it with you because, I don't know if it's for my eyes only, but Millar published a few things, like letters or so, and where he describes his position and stuff like this, and also Carol Howell and Ellison and Wayne Snell, and I think it was very interesting because I knew the guy and we talked a little bit. I never really got this kind of insight on how he thought and how he felt about things,
No, I'll have to ask Kirk about that.
Yeah, and he did stick up for all those guys, right? I mean, not to my pleasure, right? Because he defends Ellison, and he also defends Carol Howard. He said, well, she's a poor girl. She was like abused by the FBI and made to do this, and she was a nice girl. And, well, holy shit! I mean, how can you say this, right? I mean, he really, he was very understanding and positive of Carol Howard after all what she did, right? I mean, well, it's kind of interesting, but it gives you an insight about how those people think and feel,
Yeah, even after Waco, they were still not suspicious of outsiders. That's obviously a tactical mistake.
Pardon?
I was just remarking, like, even after Waco, Millar still was naive and trusting. That's interesting.
Yeah, there was a nature, I said, well, everybody who comes there is led by Jesus, by the Spirit of God. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And so I explained to them that, no, some people are come here to hurt you guys, right? I mean, some people are here to frame you, or some people are here to find a woman, or some people want a free ride. I mean, not everybody is led here by Jesus. They didn't want to. They didn't want to have it, So, and they have this thing. They let everybody in, and basically wait until the person figures out that they don't belong there. I mean, I argue with him. I said, you know that Dennis Meehan put a trailer up there as kind of a holiday residence or whatever in Elam City. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And I told her that don't let this guy come. Please. This guy is a nutcase and he is trouble, and being associated with him is no good for you guys. Well, what did they do? And Carol Howard, same thing. I said, don't allow her here, don't, no. And I said, and then Dr. Josiah said, look, the guy is a plant. I said, yeah, so what? We have nothing to hide. I said, okay. That was their attitude. The attitude was, we're not doing anything forbidden here. We don't do anything bad. So what's the danger of the FBI spying on us? And I just know that it's not how the FBI works.
You said Dennis.
It worked out. Thank God they didn't get raided. There wasn't another massacre. So I guess they were lucky after all.
You said Dennis Meehan was a nutcase?
No, he's a nutcase. Always been.
I thought you said he was perfectly harmless.
He's an alcoholic and a nutcase. But everybody thinks he's very sympathetic. Even who said this? Ron Johnson, right? Now, who is Jewish, and Meehan is a Nazi. He described Meehan as charismatic and a kind of a charming guy, right? So, yeah.
A harmless nutcase.
And I say that, and I was a little bit worried about that since he got convicted of a bombing. But when I heard from Kirk that his lawyer is convinced that he didn't do it, and that fits in the... See, Dennis Mann always wanted to be part of it and always said, you know, and he had pictures of him standing in front of a rider truck and stuff like this, and he tried to tie himself in with this bombing shit, you know, and he tried to tie other people in, and he even said that I was in the Lady Godiva, and I talked to him on the phone from the Lady Godiva and all that. Dennis, I said, why are you doing this kind of shit? You know, it's not true. But he always tried to get into things, right? But never did anything. So that's why I think he's not all in the head, right? But he always wants to be involved in stuff like this, right? And I think I read that he made a remark that to some inmate, that he was part of the Oklahoma City, that he's a third person. You know, God, Dennis Mehan hadn't changed. But he was full of shit. I mean, I called him out a few times when he was telling me stuff, and I said, look, you know, you bollocks, right? And he once told me that he had like a German HK-G3 rifle, a whole stash somewhere, and he gave him a map with a mark on it. And I said, okay, don't you think it's a good idea to mark this thing on the map where you have your gun stashed? He said, yeah, you're right, but not a good idea. And I said, okay, so we have a whole shitload of brand new HK G3 rifles, right? I mean, they're the most expensive military rifles you can get on the market. And I said, why do you have a beat-up, fucked-up, cheap Chinese copy of an AK-47 standing here in your house? That was my question. And he was silent. He didn't know what to say, you know. But that's Dennis Mehan, you know. He always makes stuff up, right? I mean,
oh. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to talk to Kirk about that case.
Yeah, that might be interesting because I thought of, you know, when Ron Johnson told me this thing, I said, "Whoa, I can't believe it. He finally did something." You know, I guess all the years he tried, was just talking, and then he finally probably decided to do something. And now I hear from Kirk that his defense lawyer thinks that he is innocent, and that that maybe I'm not a bad Dutch character after all. You know, so. I hate to be wrong. That's the thing, you know, with people. So, well, and I would have, you know, that Dennis Meyer is just one of those bullshit talking guys, but don't do any harm to anybody. I looked him up once in his grave, and there was a little Asian girl sitting there, right? And we were looking at each other and laughing. And I said, okay, some white Aryan resistance KKK guy babysitting a non-white child. That's interesting, you know. So he said, yeah, I know, she's a gook, you know, but she's my niece, you know, it's okay. I said, yeah, fine, no problem with us. Yeah. I was cracking up laughing, you know, that's the last thing you expect, don't you? I mean, don't you think that's funny?
That is, yeah, that's pretty ironic.
Yeah, so, and we couldn't help it, we just cracked up laughing and said, what's wrong? And we looked at his phone and he said, yeah, I know, she's a gook, you know, but... I said, what's she doing here? And she's my niece. I'm babysitting her. Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Just casually calling his niece a gook. That's
that's the other thing. Calling her a gook. I'm babysitting. I know she's a gook, you know, but she's my niece.
Wow, that's something.
I mean, we cracked. I mean, we couldn't. I mean, the guy was funny to a certain extent, right? But you know, the problem is, yeah, I think he had some mental issues, and he was definitely an alcoholic. I think, you know. And I don't think his condition probably got better.
He was probably a pretty easy target for the feds to entrap.
Absolutely. He was just asking for it, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, but I don't know, I still don't understand. I mean, I'm really interested in this case with this bombing thing, you know. Why would they frame an innocent guy and because if you frame an innocent guy, it means you get away the guy who really did it. And it makes me wonder, you know, aren't they interested in getting the guy? I mean...
No. Many such cases, I'd imagine the real person was probably an informant or something like that. That's
Yeah, there might be a purpose that they don't pursue that thing.
well. I've got a dog that's about to piss all over my floor if I don't take him out. But I really appreciate your time, and I'll send you some links, and I'll be in touch with Kirk about everything we discussed.
You want me to send a message to Darius James that you might contact him? Or?
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Because he's very suspicious if somebody comes sneaks up and wants to talk about me, so I have to tell him in advance to say. So don't contact him before I give you a note that I got in touch with him and he knows about you.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I mean, you have me on Skype here. You can send me a message if you have any questions or whatever. So, yeah, we can communicate by this channel here.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
And if you have some information that might be interesting for me, just do you have my emails, or you can send it via Kirk or whatever. So, yeah, if you have some interesting stuff for me, which I might be interested in, you're welcome to send it to me.
I'll do that. I'll send that later tonight after I take out my dog. Like I said, the video of Danny Coulson, I think you'll probably find that interesting, and would love to get your reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Nice talking to you. Bye.
Likewise. Take care.